to the September 10th, 2024 meeting of the Planning Board. First, we'll take a roll call to introduce board members and staff. Kate Nee.
Here.
Josh Ames.
Here.
Phil Giordano.
I'm here.
And I'm Ellen Rawlings. I'm also here. We're also joined by Elijah Romulus, our town planner, Amanda Wolf, our housing and land use planner, Jess Cole, our recording secretary, Nora Locknane, the director of economic and community development, and Jack Hatfield from Westwood Media Center. This meeting is recorded by Westwood Media Center and broadcast live on local cable television Comcast Channel 6 and Verizon Channel 42. Meetings are also live on the Westwood Media Center's YouTube channel. If you're interested in joining the meeting via Zoom, you can find the login directions in the Planning Board meeting notice that is posted to the calendar section of the town's webpage at https://www.townhall.westwood.ma.us/. We will begin the meeting with only the board members and staff unmuted and on video. As the chair recognizes individuals to speak, we will unmute them. Board members may choose to mute themselves when they are not speaking in order to minimize background noise. For applications, the chair will first invite the applicant to address the board and give a presentation summarizing what is being requested. Board members received the application materials prior to the meeting and will have reviewed them. Board members may ask questions during and following the presentation. Staff and outside experts will provide comments to the board. If the issue includes a public hearing, the board will then proceed to the public comment portion of the public hearing and will restate the instructions. In this remote meeting format, residents and guests may participate in several ways. Attendees should raise their hand and wait to be unmuted and recognized to speak over the Zoom meeting application or from a telephone dial-up. We will be able to hear you but not see you. Additionally, comments may be submitted by email or regular mail prior to the meeting. When we come to that part of the meeting, I will remind everyone of the process. Following the public comment portion, the board will deliberate and make a decision or continue the hearing to a specific future date. All remote meetings require that votes be taken by roll call. When a motion and second has been made, the chair will ask if there is any further discussion before proceeding to a roll call vote and will then restate the results of the vote. All right, Elijah, do we have any changes to our agenda this evening?
Yes, so we have a few comprehensive plan updates. This evening, we will be hearing from the Select Board, Town Administrator, and Ped and Bike. The information technology will be tabled for now.
All right. With that, our first agenda item is 2020 Comprehensive Plan updates. And as Elijah mentioned, we'll be hearing from Select Board / Finance, Town Administrator, and I believe our presenter for Pedestrian, Bike, and Safety is not present at this time. So hopefully he will be able to join us later. Otherwise, we will table that as well. And I see folks from the Select Board joining us. Welcome.
Thank you.
Joe, you have a quorum, yes? So do you need to call your meeting to order?
I think that is an excellent hint. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, Rob, I'm going to call our meeting to order and I'm going to do a roll call vote. Rob Gotti.
Here, and Marianne is unable to join for urgent family matters, so it'll just be you and I, Joe.
Okay, and I'll second that, and I'll vote aye as well. So our meeting has come to order with the Planning Board. Ellen, thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome. So I'm happy to hand the floor over. I'm guessing someone will project the implementation matrix.
All right. I'm assuming you're starting with the Select Board and Finance one. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Okay.
Chris, did you want to start this or would you like me to?
However you'd like to do it, Joe. Whatever you're most comfortable with.
Why don't I start, Chris? Ellen, Chris and I worked on this, Elijah, all of you actually, we worked on this a while ago and walked through it. So I'm going to get started. I have to do a full disclosure that Chris and I were not here at the implementation of this comprehensive plan, but we're were able to cobble together some answers for your group. So let me start. And Ellen, if I'm not doing the correct format that you have with the others, please stop me and I'm happy to restart. So I'm going to start with the land use. Would you like me to read the particular, or Elijah, would you like me to read the particular item and our updates on it, or just the updates?
Yeah, how about you read the update, the action summary, and then you can kind of hit some of the highlights that you would like to speak on related to the updates.
Sounds good. Thank you, Elijah. So under L1, we have foster community gathering places, walking paths, bike paths, trails, shuttle services, etc. And under for our 2002 for updates, we have Elijah, we put in the Canton Street Project Working Group, the sidewalk improvements in Islington and High Street. The Select Board created an off-leash dog park working group to explore an off-leash dog park, and there was a great deal of community input surrounding community space, fields, gym, cafeteria at the Pine Hill School. Is that the format you'd like, Elijah?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. And Chris, if I leave anything out, please pop in.
No problem, Joe.
Okay, thanks.
Joe, I got your back as well, as I was on the planning board when it got approved and then came to the select board, and that was when I first got there. So I've seen this document multiple times.
All right. And I want the record to show Rob Gotti always has my back. So thanks, Rob. Okay, L3, response, repurpose municipally owned properties for the town, centers, housing, open space, and recreation. What Elijah, we put down the American Legion for potential Fire Station 1 temporary quarters. Wentworth Hall currently being used for some recreation programming, which is which needs additional programming space. We do have the facilities study going on between the school buildings and the municipal buildings. We continue to increase our affordable housing thanks to you folks. Inventory while maintaining the Commonwealth minimum of 10% affordable units. Elijah, for L2, funding for open space. Select Board worked very hard towards a deal with Hale. However, Hale decided not to partner with the town of Westwood and Dover. The Select Board continues to seek out opportunities to maintain open space. And I just want to go on the record for this for L2 that Marianne Cummings LeBlanc did an extraordinary job on this, and she's to be commended for her actions. L3, prioritize open space protections and acquisitions. Select Board worked very hard to reach a deal with Hale. However, Hale decided not to partner with us. The town of Westwood and Dover will work together to seek opportunities to maintain open space. Under town centers, we've got collaborate with Select Board for Deerfield property. At this time, Deerfield property is under the care, custody, and control of the school committee. And Elijah, we're going to put that down as a move to ongoing. Outdoor seating, street furniture, gathering places. We have installed branches at Morrison Park, which were donated, thankfully. Select Board extended allowances for outdoor seating and restaurants. And we'd like this move to ongoing and long-term as well, Elijah. Elijah,
Okay.
we'll shoot this along to you tomorrow morning.
For sure.
Annual review of infrastructure and improvements. This occurs annually as part of the town's capital improvement plan and the annual budget process, and we'd like that move to ongoing. TC11, which is sidewalk crossing lighting enhancements in town centers. Canton Street Project Working Group is an example of that. Sidewalk improvements in Islington High Street, Islington Center, redevelopment traffic signalization review, and Todd Corchin, as the DPW, has done a great job on that. Public art and public amenities. That's certainly something that we're striving towards. I do not have an update at this time. Public gathering places. Wentworth Hall came online, and we'd like that move to ongoing as well. Incorporate greenery in public ways and commercial projects. Homes at 45 Abbey Road maintain the soccer field as open space. Actually, the entire town did. Open space is built into the master plan for University Station. A tremendous amount of time on open space was built into the Pine Hill School project. Next, we're down to housing. Zoning changes for greater housing choices. Select Board continues to support increased housing choices while supporting warrant articles such as the MBTA zoning. Kudos to all of the members of the Planning Board for the strong work on that. And we'd also like to have that moved to an ongoing. H2 Housing Production Plan, compliance to increase subsidized housing inventory. Select Board supports increasing subsidized housing, putting forth $150,000 a year for 5 years of funding for WAHA properties that were donated and in need of repair. In addition, the Select Board and the town administrator looked at opportunities to increase the inventory and funding to increase the affordable housing stock in Westwood. That is a priority for the Select Board, as I'm sure it is a priority for the Planning Board as well. Establish diversity and human rights. The town, the town administrator appointed a human rights task force, which continues to provide feedback and suggestions to the town administrator and Select Board. An example is the joint diversity statement by the Select Board and the HRTF. And we have a human rights committee that is being discussed. Study the benefits of CPA. Rob, stay tuned. The Select Board appointed the Long Range Financial Planning Committee and last year and resurrected option to present CPA as an option for voters. After significant research, the Long Range Planning Committee recommended to the Select Board not to move forward, primarily because of the real estate tax increase for the new Pine Hill Elementary School and the renovation of the reevaluation of the real estate properties which every community was faced this past year. If you have questions on that, folks, I'm sure Rob can handle it much better than I can, but I'd like to proceed. Explore programs for energy efficient and renewable energy improvements for the residents. Select Board continues to support the efforts to increase our sustainability and the great work of our energy manager and the great work of the WEAC. The town has solar panels on roofs and electric charging stations for as well as solar canopies, hopefully solar canopies up at the school parking lots. Community Choice, the electricity program was launched in March 2023, which as a homer, I greatly appreciated that and the work that the folks did on that. The program was approved by town meeting 2019 and designed to provide competitively priced electricity supply options and more renewable energy for residents, which I think is fantastic, the work they did on that. Supplemental aid to elderly and disability tax fund. Select Board support $300,000, a one-time payment aid to the elderly, as well as the opportunities to work with developers and others to contribute to this fund. A donation of $7,500 from Todd Sullivan as part of the Obed Baker House modified proposal, which I'm sure you folks are aware of that.
Mr. Carpenter,
Sure.
if I may, through the chair, I just want to mention you do have the freedom to kind of go through the rest of the list with, hitting any ones that you want to really speak on in particular, and wants to let folks watching know that we do have all the updates in total on our website.
Terrific. Thank you, Elijah. Let me just give this a quick scan. I do want to mention the streamlining business permitting, which the Select Board continues to support, streamlining permits, which you folks use routinely. I should mention, Elijah, the select board remains open to discussion of how a TIF would benefit the town in addition to tax revenues, including whether the project could also provide impact hotel and meals tax account. Under natural and cultural resources, I don't see anything there other than the benefits of the CPA, which if you have questions, Rob can answer that afterwards. His committee, the long range planning, gave that did a deep dive on that. Historic rehabilitation of the Baker House. Unfortunately, we could not go forward with that. I want to move down to community facilities. No special comments on that. I do have some here, Elijah. Evaluate feasibility of multi-purpose indoor recreation community. That's an ongoing. I'd like that move to. We would like that move to ongoing indoor facility. Down to CF17, evaluate opportunities for community gardens. I did update this, Elijah, and we'll send that along to you. We are working on updating that. Hopefully, we may be able to do something on that, but that is definitely on our radar for, I've gotten requests for it, so that's definitely on our radar for a community garden. And then down to sustainability, that's pretty straightforward. Open space and recreation. Again, long-range planning and financial committee did some work on this with the CPA. Land acquisition, that's always on our radar. And then transportation, my only comment on that, Elijah, was under T1, promote regional transportation improvements. I added 22 Everett Street. If you had the opportunity to watch the select board meeting last evening, the developer has decided to hire a transportation coordinator to help mitigate some of the transportation issues relative to 22 Everett Street development. And I can send that along as well. Otherwise, Elijah, I don't see. The rest is pretty straightforward with what you have before you. So do you folks have any questions?
I had to find my mute button there. Thank you so much. That's a lot. Yeah, I would happily open up the floor to questions from board members. I do see Josh's hand up.
So, Madam Chair, could I just add one thing that the chair, just to one thing that the chair was speaking of, just as some of the other points, and I know that this is high on his list. He's been talking about it quite a bit, so isn't the board, but one of the things under the community facilities is CF9, which is develop a long-range plan for the fire station. So there's been a number of efforts made in that regard. The select board called for a special town meeting in January to appropriate funding, which was a combination of ARP funds as well as free cash, which town meeting did support for design bid. And at last night's select board meeting, there was a discussion at the August select board meeting as well as last night's select board meeting talking about where that process is. So we are working on that process. We did have in a butters meeting last week. We are having public forums beginning on Monday, September 16th. It's on the website, so we would certainly encourage anyone who's interested to attend. But as part of that, the commitment that the select board made to the community was we would come with a bid in hand to that Maytown meeting. And as part of that, and as part of that process with the select board support, they did support a recommendation from the design team to move the annual town meeting from the first Monday in May to the third Monday in May. So that'll be on May 19th. So we'll have the annual town meeting on May 19th. And the plan is to then present this. As you know, you will have applications before you for one of your future meetings as part of this project, but just wanted to make sure that the community was aware of that as well.
Thank you very much. I have that meeting on my calendar as well. Okay, excellent. Thank you. So yes, Josh, you've been waiting. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I think Mr. Coleman pointed out a perfect one that I really like what we did. Like, there's action there, and it's not like a blanket commitment statement towards some of these things. I found that a lot of these updates were the select board is committed to, but there was very little action behind it. And I would look to the select board to put more teeth behind things for that we could actually point to that we've been doing, because I think there's been a ton of work. It's just documenting that and being able to show that to the citizens that like we are taking action against this. So I think actually you pointed out a perfect one that I would almost expect anything that we're claiming that we've taken action against, that it looks something like that, right?
Josh, do me a favor.
Yeah.
I think there's actually a lot of action on here. Not all of it is complete, right?
Yeah, of
Because
course.
so I just want to make sure that we're giving credit to a lot of the things that are ongoing because they take time.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely spot on, but blanket commitment statements don't demonstrate the efforts that have been made, right? Like, I think that's where I'm sort of seeing where we can do better, is just saying it's an ongoing activity. We've held, whatever planning committees, we've allocated funds, we have some sort of plan, not just we're supportive or we're committed to. I actually did want to ask about the CPA. I'm actually not familiar with that at all, so I wanted to understand that just a little bit better. I guess since you're you got put on the spot already, if you could enlighten me on that one.
Sure. I mean, one of the things that we were asked to do was take a look at that. And the CPA provides funding, and Chris, back me up on the sort of the mechanics of it, but there are 4 sort of discrete uses, from housing to open space to recreation to what's the 4th one, Chris, that I'm drawing a blank on?
Open space, housing, recreation, open space, housing, recreation.
Historic preservation.
Historic,
Historic
thank you,
preservation.
historic, thank you very much.
And so as we looked at the way the CPA, you can basically take money, take basically a fee, a tax that will be then allocated into a very specific designated fund that can only be used for those 4 uses. And those 4 uses didn't necessarily, that was sort of restrictive relative to this overall comprehensive plan, especially on the heels of the large tax increase that residents had to bear based for the Pine Hill School, as well as the tax shift factor that happened because residential grew 3 times faster than commercial. We did not think this was the right time to explore this further for 2 reasons. One is obviously the burden on the taxpayer, but the second really had to do with the very tight restrictions around how that money gets used. So that was why the group did not push that forward for the select board to pursue.
Yeah. So I guess that was the intent of that sort of that action, though, right? Is to
It was to explore it. It wasn't to implement.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, but the fact that people were interested in that so much so that it made it on to this plan sort of entails that there is some sort of appetite for the restrictiveness of that budget constraint. I guess that's my first part. The second part, obviously, like, you guys are well within your right to push that to the voters to vote or not, but I think it's self-evident that as being there, that like people.
It's also self-evident that it has been voted down in the past as well.
Okay.
So,
yeah. It just is interesting that like that was one of the key factors of not moving it forward, is that it was doing what it meant to do. I don't know.
I think that it was the finding of the group that it was not in our best interest at this time to pursue that.
Okay. The Hale project, what ended up being the linchpin that ended up making that fall apart? Just curious.
I can't really speak to that. As you know, I had to recuse myself from it, so I'm gonna lean on Chris or Joe to speak to that one.
Yeah. Is it open to the group?
Yes, I'm happy to address that. Josh, as I said during this, that Mary Ann did an outstanding job on that. And unfortunately, I think it came down to time constraints and the decision was made not by us because I thought we were pretty close. That Hale decided to go a different route.
I think there was maybe some more that I heard in a Dover meeting, Joe, which had to do with you can't basically give town money and not get something in return. And that was effectively, I think there was somebody on the Dover Select Board who highlighted that this effectively was against procurement regulations. Chris, am I recollecting that properly?
Yes, there were a number of, there was a lot of work that a lot of people put in on this, and Mary Ann certainly took a lead in that effort. And there were a number of different funding options to try to address, to come up with the funding or proposal for the funding. But the last one that both towns were presented with was just that, Rob, which was something that didn't comply with municipal finance law. I also think that there was a timing issue for Hale, that they had certain other obligations that were approaching some time sensitivity, and to address the needs that they would need to do in both communities, I don't believe was able to fit within their time frame. Now, that doesn't mean that, I don't want to speak for Dover, that Westwood and Hale have separated and are not continuing to work together. We continue to work together. Matter of fact, we have the new Hale executive director coming to our department heads meeting to introduce himself. I also think that Hale will continue, from my conversation with the new executive director, Hale is continuing to work on some type of conservation restriction for that property. And they'll be doing so with some other groups, but it will not be with the town of Dover or the town of Westwood.
Awesome. Yeah, no, the timing thing completely makes sense. I guess I am surprised though that we had such a disparate view of like what we're receiving or what they would give. Because if it's in permanent restriction, like why wouldn't the town just buy it for $1 or for the funds that we're offering? But I guess that's beyond my sort of scope and knowledge of the topics discussed. Deerfield, we're saying that we're in progress with Deerfield, but at the same time that it's under the care, custody, and control of the school committee. I'm struggling to understand how we're saying that we've made any progress with planning, and at the same time we can't talk about it or think about it because it's the school boards.
So I'm happy to address that if you'd like.
Good.
So as far as Josh, as far as the in progress, through the school superintendent and the school committee, the town has been able to use Deerfield temporarily for recreation programs. We started last spring. We're continuing through the school year. And as recently as late August, our IT department has moved out of the high school and temporarily into the Deerfield. Again, this is on a temporary basis. So I would consider that progress as far as what's happening. The facility and the grounds are still under the care, custody, and control of the school committee. They have established a sub-working group that they're going to be discussing, I believe, other educational needs. But I do think that the fact that we're having these conversations with the schools and with other members of the community indicates some type of progress. Again, we certainly expect the conversations with the schools to continue as they have been. They've been very forthcoming with what they are looking to do with the Deerfield. I think the select board has certainly been very forthcoming with what they would like to see from the Deerfield. So we'll continue to have those conversations.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And I think that goes back to my previous point of like, it's under the care, custody, and control of the school board. Doesn't tell anything, doesn't tell the story. And I think what you just said is perfect. It makes complete sense to me, and it definitely shows progress against that. The annual review for the long range plan, TC10. Sorry, it's not in front of me anymore. I was just sort of looking for the output against that. It sort of just referenced back to our annual planning, PC10.
Yeah, so as part of the annual budget process, Chris and the team put together the capital improvement plan, and that has a number of budget items that go out 5 years, and that list continues to morph as the calendar continues to turn. So that is a standard part of our budget planning process. And so adding to that, and you've heard several mentions of the facility study, can't really do a comprehensive plan and have things where we're talking about facilities without having a comprehensive review of all of those buildings, their condition, what types of things would need to be done, in some cases to bring them to code. So there's a bunch of those types of things that will help stimulate conversation around what we might be able to do if reimagining uses on some of those buildings.
Yeah, and I think that makes complete sense. But that's not what I sort of got from this update. I think the latter of what you just provided was really on point, right? Like that an assessment of these is occurring, and it sounds like that was really the intent around this TC10, not the standard.
I don't know that that's true, Josh. I think that this one, because it says annual review, probably does play to the fact that the ongoing capital planning takes place. But this is a one-time sort of snapshot in time look at all of the buildings together. And so we are eagerly awaiting receipt of that.
Yeah, so I guess then we're sort of chicken and the egg there, where if we can't do this annual review without this sort of larger macro view, it was what sort of you just said, then how can we ever succinctly do it on an annual basis without having that at some period?
Because we have people whose responsibility that is within the town in terms of, our facilities director, Jimmy McCarthy, and the similar on the school side. So, they are looking at the buildings on a continuous basis. FS1 is actually, what's the frequency, Chris, of the structural engineer that's taking a look at that building?
Yeah, it's now it's I think it's every 6 months now. It's like twice a year we have it,
Yeah.
and we have departments. We have our town is looking at it. Town staff is looking at it on a monthly basis, and then we have a structural engineer coming out periodically to look at that and provide us with an update on that as well. But if I could just add, Josh, the way I interpreted this, and maybe I misinterpreted it, it says annual review of infrastructure improvements, and what Rob was saying is what we do as part of our 5-year capital plan. So when you see warrant articles for road improvements, when you see warrant articles for the bond on the $4.6 million bond that we did for 109 and High Street for the sidewalks, that's part of the infrastructure. When we have large reconstructions of roadways, that incorporates other utilities, Dedham Westwood Water, Eversource, and things like that. That's part of our infrastructure, and that's what we do on an annual basis as part of our capital and annual operating budget process.
The Conant Road culvert that we just approved at this past year's town meeting.
Yeah, but I think it goes back to the point that you made, Rob, about the needs assessment associated with not just the asking for money and having a piecemeal approach to it, but like having a comprehensive look at it. I feel like there's something missing in between that. But that lives outside of the annual budget process. It's just that long range comprehensive plan.
The cost of these studies is not something, they don't change that dramatically year to year. So we decided to take a look at, given the number of major capital projects in flight, let's do a comprehensive review of all the buildings. And that's the work that Doran Whittier's engaged in right now.
Yeah, I mean, not to throw stones a little bit, but like historically, I can't say with much certainty when this was created even, that we had much confidence that, for instance, our schools, that 3 of which we said that are in tragic disrepair, hence 2 of them were destroyed and we built a new one, that we have that level of consistent review on a macro level. So I think we should be sensitive around that.
Just to kind of add some clarity. So this TC10 is under the town centers comprehensive plan section. So this kind of specifically looks at amenities, infrastructure related to our town centers.
Great. I guess that adds some clarity there.
Well, the other thing, Josh, just to note with the Pine Hill project going through MSBA, one of the things that the MSBA had noted and complimented was the work that had been done maintaining those schools as long as they had been maintained, and the recognition that they needed to be replaced. So there was, you know, I think we are doing what we can to make sure that those buildings are. That doesn't mean that there aren't needs. I know there are needs, right? And so this facility study is designed to help us prioritize those needs.
Yeah, I think we're totally aligned on that. I think we're actually arguing the same point, just the nuance of the need and to document it. And I'm sorry, guys, last question. In the H2 production plan, the $150,000 over for 5 years. H2, yeah.
Yes, is there? Yes.
Yeah. Again, maybe I'm sort of ignorant here on this. Is this going for approval at the town meeting? Has this already been done? Is this going to be out of free cash?
Completed. It's been completed.
Oh, awesome.
It was prior to my arrival, the town started that process, and I want to say my second or third year working with the town, we completed that 5-year program.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, because again, I wasn't aware of anything recently or future plans. So, okay, great. That's all my questions.
Josh, I just want to follow up. I enjoyed your questions. It got me thinking about the fact that I could go down to my basement and grab the last time we had a major facility study done in the town of Westwood. And Chris is absolutely right about the evaluations that facilities folks do, but maybe we ought to consider, put our heads together, rather than having facilities done every 20 years or whatever. Maybe we should think about a more regular schedule to stay ahead of the curve on this. I'd hate to. I'm looking forward to this facility study, but I also know, and Josh, I think you and I are on the same wavelength on this, that this is something that has to be done regularly, not just by happenstance. So I think you raise a good point, and we can certainly discuss that on the select board about a more regular process for this.
Thank you. I thought I saw Amanda's hand and then it disappeared. Amanda, are you okay?
I was just going to add, as an example of how those funds were used that were given to WAHA, they recently acquired, this was last year, a house on School Street that is now rented out to an income eligible family. So they don't come to the planning board because of their model, but it has been utilized.
Thank you. Phil.
I actually only have essentially 2 questions, but they're a little bit kind of like from more of a global sense. One, on those areas where there's overlap, without going through this, I thought this was actually pretty comprehensive and really appreciated the effort, the work that went into it. But sometimes, it's a function of availability and time, and I feel like I'm playing catch up on matters that are select board coming to the planning board at some point, but I'm trying to catch up on what's going on at the select board. And I am open to and suggestions, and I have a thought on kind of starting the conversation as to how to kind of keep us in the loop on where you're progressing. I didn't have time to, for the select board meeting last night, but I know it's important to be apprised just so we as planning board members. So I guess part of my suggestion is, how do we improve, communication and efficiency so we're up to speed and can dovetail, our efforts, even where we may have, differing views, but communication on those areas that are useful, and not to put more work on people, but I see two people that are kind of points of contact to Chris and Elijah that could help, kind of periodically update ourselves. I mean, you have with the fire station coming online, you could have, Deerfield. There's a whole bunch of things that could be useful, and we could and also support your efforts. So I'm open to suggestions, but that was something that I did want to touch upon for tonight.
So,
Any thoughts?
Phil, this is Chris. So I appreciate and certainly agree with what you're saying. Communication can always be improved. I think one of the things that the board has asked us to do is to find different ways of communicating to allow people to access information at their leisure. So one of the things that we have done when it comes to FS1, there's been a lot of work that's gone into having a dedicated web page. So we have that off of our main page. Also, the Charter Review Committee presented to the Select Board last night. What they presented to the Select Board is also on the homepage, is a link to the information that they have there. So we are trying to use the website to provide additional information to residents at their leisure. That's certainly one way. We do have department updates or department head meetings, which we're all sharing different information, and that information can also be shared with boards from those staff liaisons. But we're certainly open to other and additional ways of communicating to with all boards, not just the planning board. But thank you.
Okay.
Phil, if I may, I just want to add to what Chris said. So there's a land use committee meeting that happens every first Wednesday of the month. And I can definitely start incorporating some updates that come from there into some of the kind of board meeting summaries, if that helps.
Yeah, so you're kind of hitting the nail on the head of what I was going to suggest, Elijah. If we maybe either coordination with Chris or others, even if it's a few bullets to direct us to things that are going to be ripe very soon that we want to make sure that we pay attention to, because I think it is helpful for us in our efforts to what the Select Board is targeting, what others are targeting, that we help stay apprised. And I hear what Chris is saying, and obviously do that, but in part I guess it is trying to it's a little bit more of a heads up as compared to periodically checking the the web page, which everybody does anyways.
So if I may, there are two things. One is this meeting is actually something that we required so that we are talking about it annually, right? So to actually review this, I don't think that has ever really been part of the cadence of the interaction between the planning board and the select board as it relates to this comprehensive plan. So just the fact that all of us are here talking about that is a good step forward.
Agreed.
Another way, Phil, that one of the ways that I try to keep abreast of what's going on with many of the other boards and committees in town is by subscribing to the list. I actually review every agenda to see if there's anything that I want to be paying attention to. I don't necessarily attend every meeting, but those that are recorded by Westwood Media Center for sort of the big four: planning board, school committee, finance and warrant, and the select board, I'll watch those over a cup of coffee the next morning and just scrub through. Westwood Media Center does a wonderful job of the topic on the bottom of the thing. So that's another way, not just for those of us that are elected officials to stay abreast of what's going on with other committees, but for all other residents as well. It's a way of sort of doing a quick scrub to get to the things that are of interest to you.
Yeah, and I do. That's a good suggestion on the subscription, which I actually should be doing. But that's a good point that I would say. I guess my second question was more if the select board had an ask of us on the planning board, what could we do now that, I mean, these conversations I think are very useful. Is there an ask that we could respond to what might be something that you guys would ask for us? And that's kind of an open-ended, who knows question.
I'll defer to the chair here. I pay pretty close attention to what you guys have going on. And I think, the work that you did, for example, with the Everett Street project, from the original proposal that was put before you, the very, very thoughtful questions that you all pushed back on the developer and what you were able to get out of that. I mean, to me, that's the type of thing that I'm paying attention to for any number of reasons, but I was really impressed with the work that the group did. So, I try to stay abreast of. I don't know, Joe, if you have other things that you would suggest.
I guess Rob and Phil, a lot of it comes down to communication between the different chairs of the committees working together. So we could probably formalize that, Rob, in a more meaningful way, but I think we do a pretty good job staying abreast of this, and Chris does a good job keeping us up to date on that. And Josh, I'm sorry, back to what we discussed earlier. The report was the archetype report, which was probably done around 2000. The last time we had a comprehensive look at the buildings and the facilities in town, which I believe, Josh, I think you're on the same page, is we should probably do on a more regular basis rather than this when things get bad or when a grant comes through.
Madam Chair, may I just add something on?
Absolutely.
Thank you, and I'll be very brief. I just want to follow up on what Rob was regarding the planning board. So I just want to say to all of you that thank you, because a lot of the work that you do and a lot of the vetting and the discussions you have with applicants takes a considerable amount of time. And what many of us get to see at the end of that is usually a finished product that could result in a recommendation of a zoning amendment, a new zoning bylaw, or projects that are going to go forth. So there's a lot of work that's done, I don't want to say behind the scenes because I know it's done in the public forum, that may not get as much attention as it does when it goes to town meetings. So thank you all for the work that you do there. Phil, in addition to communication, just to share with the people who watch the planning board meetings, the other ways that we do try to communicate, and if people aren't subscribed to it, I would certainly encourage that they do so. We have an electronic distribution list called The Wire. We also have The Word, which is a 3 times a year we mail a document to each household, but also Alert Westwood. So for those residents who may not have had the opportunity to sign up for Alert Westwood, that's our reverse 911. And the more people that sign up, including their cell numbers, what we're trying to do is we're trying to provide communication through Alert Westwood for the texts and emails, and to really save the higher level notifications for the telephone. But we just don't have a lot of those cell numbers and email addresses that have been registered. So being able to use an opportunity with the planning board viewership to encourage people to sign up for the Alert Westwood, The Wire, and also just look in the mailbox for the Word that comes 3 times a year.
Yeah. And I just want to, just from my personal perspective, just say thanks for the support, because last town meeting, especially Rob, your comments were greatly appreciated on the MBTA communities. That was obviously a controversial issue, but I think it was a good result, and do appreciate the efforts you guys put into. So I'm done.
It was my pleasure, and it was actually I was also doing that. I think there was an administrative article that was being challenged at that moment in time, and I know the amount of time and effort and energy and reading that you all put into all of your meetings, and so I wanted to make sure that that wasn't a baby out with the bathwater type of situation. So,
okay, appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. So I just wanted, I had a couple of comments and just couple of viewpoints that I just wanted to share with the select board while I have you here, and with Chris. It's so you guys know you're playing to a pretty friendly audience here. So thank you so much for all of the work that you do. I do just want to highlight to people who might be looking at us or looking at you for the first time that this tool that we have here, that what we're reviewing, it isn't what you typically use to monitor your work, right? So so this is a particular lens, this comprehensive plan that you're kind of giving us some of the highlights. This isn't everything that the select board does. Mm-hmm. And that being said, I just want to say, I don't think you guys you're giving yourselves full credit in some of these areas. And it speaks a little bit about what Josh was saying, where there's a few things here that you could just mark as completed. but you're not saying completed. And so I would ask that when we do this again and at whatever period in time that you mark some stuff as completed, which is maybe another whole job, right? Filling in this form is not a great way for people to be spending their time. So I just wanted to say that, right? This isn't everything. It's some of the stuff that maybe comes right to mind as you're looking at this. So I'm very concerned about our older residents and our very new residents who I really appreciated Phil's question and the answer about how to stay informed. I definitely think that one of it doesn't necessarily show here on this list, but one of our tools to keep people informed is our webpage. I just think it's very confusing. It's hard for people to know that they're getting the most accurate thing. And that they're being pointed in the right direction. So that's a viewpoint, anything you can do to help with that would be great. And talking about the CPA earlier and that it had been voted down a couple of times, I do just want to mention that our residents are changing. We have new residents all the time. So what was true 5, 10 years ago might not be true now. So it's something to consider. I was thinking of Sean Weller in particular. When I was thinking, like, our residents are changing. We have new people living here, and we might have people interested in new things. And the other thing I just wanted to mention, I'm never going to watch your full meeting, Rob. So I really appreciate you saying, check out the bottom. I didn't know that. Like, tips and tricks, super helpful. Last thing I'm going to say as a way to look at this is I am really interested in pedestrian safety. In the safety of our residents, physical safety, walking around your yard, crossing your own street, going to the town centers. And we're hearing more and more from residents that they're worried about the amount of traffic and they're worried about the speed of traffic, right? And every street, I just want to take this chance to say, every street thinks it's just them. Only their street, there's more cars and there's more traffic. So this comprehensive plan, I think we need to take a really comprehensive view and be looking at those things in these sections. And the reason I'm saying that is I didn't see Gay Street as a possible sidewalk listed in enough places for me. It's a disappointment. I know it was voted down at some point, but I feel like I really want to believe that it's on the select board's radar. Because that is a safety issue for our residents in middle school and high school. If there is an incident at either of those schools, those students cannot get to the other side of town they can't get there on a contiguous sidewalk. And for me, that is a safety miss from the town to our most vulnerable residents. And that includes our older residents who go to the senior center. So I would just love the Gay Street sidewalk to be a little higher on people's radars. But like I said, big fan, appreciate everything you guys have done.
Hey, just a couple
Thank
of
you.
comments with respect to, some of those, especially the safety stuff. We share in the desire to have, the residents, young, old, and everyone in between, runners, bikers, everybody be as safe as possible. So that's really what the Canton Street project is looking at, and they are reevaluating a redesign that should be presented sometime in the near future. To be honest with you, if you're, as supportive of the Gay Street sidewalk, that could be a wonderful model for getting that done with some real, substantive state funding. Because if we get something done on Canton Street, you likely have a roadmap, pardon the pun, for how to get it done on Gay Street, because both of those are considered scenic roads, and in the past, the was required to have it on both sides, and now the state is entertaining, right, the idea of only doing it on one side, and it could be a really effective way, especially given now that Pine Hill services so much, folks coming down from High Street down to the new school. So,
Yep, agree.
And Rob, I think it's important to understand that when the Gay Street Sidewalk Project study was underway, to your point, the regulations that the state had were different. And quite honestly, when the Canton Street sidewalk project began, the regulations were different. The regulations changed as the Canton Street project began. So you're right. If we are fortunate with Canton Street, there's a much greater opportunity that the town could see something with Gay Street through that type of state program.
And Chris, just while I have you, at that time, the future of Pine Hill School was uncertain, right? But now we
100%.
have a
Yes.
huge school. So
Yes.
Hey, just on a personal note, I believe with all my heart that we definitely need a sidewalk on Gay Street. As a young boy attending the junior high school and the high school, I walked that street too many times. It's definitely at the forefront of my radar, and I've discussed that at the Ped Bike Committee when you've been there. I absolutely, positively believe we have to do it. We may not be able to do it in one fell swoop, but I think it's still on my radar, and I'm sure it is with Rob and Marianne as well.
thank you.
Thank you. Amanda, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch upon briefly Kate's first comments about reaching our seniors and our young adults. Krista, the select board's office and the town administrator's office does a lot of communication, but we're also, other departments have kind of fulfilled this role too. So just so everyone knows, the Council on Aging sends out a newsletter every 2 months to every single person in Westwood that is over the age of 60. So they get that in the mail, understanding the website and those other things aren't going to be as accessible to them. And then the library, which Lizzie McGovern touched upon this when she presented the first night we did this, they're trying to partner with different town divisions and departments to see how they can share some of the projects going on with the community in a way that's different than the typical forums we deal with.
Thank you. And Amanda, just and Kate and everyone, in addition to that, Lena, at the COA, we also have annual presentations to the patrons of the COA. So the town clerk will present, the finance team would present, I will be there, public safety will be there. So we do have additional opportunities, additional in-person outreach to the seniors as well.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? I'm not seeing any hands. I would just like to, Kate, thank you. I'm so glad you brought up the website, because that has been on my mind for many years. Now, I am a tech savvy person. I make my living trying to break websites. I find the flow and the UI of the website very unintuitive. And I know it's been redesigned a couple of times, and I feel like with each redesign, it gets harder to find what I'm looking for. And I'm not trying to be cruel. Like, again, I am a tech professional. This is what I do. I don't find it super wieldy. And I've heard from a lot of residents who are far less tech savvy that they find it very difficult to navigate. So I think I'm glad Kate mentioned that. I would put in a plug to maybe take a look at this again and maybe revisit having another look at the UI and the flow. I think that would help. And I also would second what Kate said about the CPA. That was exactly what was running through my mind when we were talking about it. I know it has not passed town meeting a couple of times, but I have heard from a lot of the newer residents that they're very interested in it. And I get comments like, why don't we have it already? And I explain, well, we tried. And, but I think the demographics in town and the desires of our residents are changing, and finding the right time to look at it again. I feel like we're getting closer to a time when it might be something that would be viable. I was thinking about that through all the conversations about hail. CPA is something that we could have used to help with the hail effort to some degree. So I wouldn't want to see it dismissed out of turn because it hasn't worked before. So Kate, thank you for mentioning both of those things.
To be clear, it wasn't dismissed out of turn. There was substantive discussion around it and pros and cons of it at this time. Absolutely.
I understand. I wouldn't want to see it tabled too long. I think it's worth keeping it as something that we discuss regularly. That's the sense I'm getting from people I speak to in the community. and also my own personal thoughts that it would be a good thing for us. But I understand the process as to how you got where you are. I didn't mean to sound like you didn't vet it appropriately. I know you did, but I do think our community is changing and the wants and needs of our community is changing so that it's worth keeping it on our radar. Aside from that, thank you for all of this. There is a lot here. I know you guys work very hard and you put a lot of time in. So thank you for coming to share all of these updates with us this evening. Did anyone else, before I let the select board adjourn their meeting and get on with their evening, were there any other questions or comments for the select board? Yes.
I just wanted to add, I found it very comprehensive and useful, so I thought it was very appreciated.
So, Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
This comprehensive plan is something that we revisit, once a decade, right? And it's the type of thing that just having these discussions on an annual basis, there's obviously a lot of work that is ongoing. And to Kate's point earlier, this by no means is just what the select board and or town staff does. This is, the specific long-term vision for what we collectively desire as far as the direction of the community. And so, progress sometimes can be slow. There's always more need than there are revenue sources. And so that's what, the reformation of the Long Range Financial Planning Committee is also intended to do, is help advise on some of the things and how those things may be prioritized.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I know we have an update from our town administrator next. Select board, did you want to remain in session while the town administrator update is happening? Does that make sense for you?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Then
Ellen, before the town administrator starts, I just wanted to comment on Kate's comment about the town's webpage and your comments as well. I have to tell you that my workplace, I found the medical center's webpage portal much more nimble than what we have now. And I would have to say that at least once a month, I'll say something to Chris about changes on that page. And I know they've been working with their consultant on that, but I agree 100%. And that especially plays into with our senior citizens and the expectation that they can just go to the town's webpage. It is not user-friendly, and it certainly is not nimble. So there are opportunities there, and Chris and I have been discussing that at length.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. And that sounds like it's a nice segue into handing the floor to Chris Coleman for the town administrator updates.
All right, well, thank you very much. And I certainly hear what everyone is saying. And just to be clear, we hear it from our own team members. We have had conversations. I will continue to have conversations with our new director of IT and to evaluate next steps when it comes to updating the website. So thank you for your comments on that. Do we have that? I'm sorry, is that up? Is it the town administrator one up yet?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I set mine up as well. So
If
under
Sorry,
H11.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. It looked like Elijah needed to interject briefly.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that, Chris. Madam Chair, I'm not sure if the select board is staying on or are they adjourning their session?
It sounded like they wanted to remain for the time being, and I think they'll adjourn after the town administrator report. That probably makes sense, just because I think there is some overlap there.
Okay, and also just as a matter of timekeeping, it is 8:06.
Thank you very much.
Elijah, message heard loud and clear. I'll be very quick with this. Thank you. Under H1, welcome packet. So we do have a welcome packet. It's a hard copy packet. One of the things that we're looking at internally is to create that into electronic format. So we can also have that on our website. so people can gather that information. New residents and existing residents can gather that information at their leisure. Final phases of University Station. All the parcels at University Station have now been purchased, with the last two being the Dana-Farber and Homes 2. I know that our permitting group and the Community Economic Development Department has been working with Dana-Farber and as well as with Homes 2. We do have some internal meetings happening regarding Homes 2, so we're continuing to work with the property owners regarding that property. Implement electronic permitting, that has been done for the land use departments, and we'll be working with our IT director to see how we can expand that, not just land use, but also permitting departments, and how can we expand that to other departments within the same software. The renovation and expansion of Town Hall. We have had an ADA, an accessibility audit study done on all town facilities and some playing fields. It's also included some school facilities. We have that draft. We're working with the authors of that draft report, the assessors who've done that. In the meantime, we have, through our facilities department led by Jimmy McCarthy, we've made some improvements to Town Hall. We have moved some of the offices. For those who haven't been in a while, we've moved some of the offices to try to have the offices that get the greatest foot traffic on the primary floor. And then we have moved some other offices around. We currently do not have anyone working in the lower level. We do have a future plan for the lower level. It's not accessible, but we are trying to utilize that space the best we can. Our facilities department has also updated all 4 restrooms within Town Hall. The challenge with making all the restrooms ADA compliant is 2 things. One, some people may have a difficult time even with the lift getting to the 2nd floor, but also under the ADA code, we do not have enough clearance on the pull side of the entrance door because of the stairs that go up into Town Hall from those restrooms to make those fully compliant. But inside, they have been renovated. They have grab bars. We have the turning radius. We have the elements within the restroom at the ADA level. We just cannot consider them accessible restrooms because of that one issue with that clearance on the door. But he has done a great job. He and his team have done a great job doing that. Our facilities director and energy manager has also installed mini splits on the 2nd floor. We're working on the main floor now. That's energy sufficient, and it also provides a greater control both for heat and air within the building. We have updated most recently with the support of the select board and some of the opera funds. We have updated some security cameras around the building, including the police department, and also updated our access control. The develop staff for website updates and communications. So we have been working on the website. I hear everyone loud and clear. I hear some of our team members during our staff meetings as well. So we will be certainly working on that. But in the meantime, as I said earlier, we have looked at other ways to try to expand our communication through the wire, through the word, and through more active involvement in social media. So we do have a dedicated team member who is working with social media to provide information for not just the select board, but the entire town. So we do, different departments have their own social media accounts, but we also have one main social media account that's worked on through the select board's office. So we do provide communication that way. We also provide information through Alert Westwood. I'm sorry.
Hey, Chris, if I may, just to add in on that, Ellen, I understand the perspective of being a pretty tech savvy person as well. One of the things that I've actually asked Chris to look at with our new IT director is the hosting provider. We purchase one tier of package, and there may be, from a content management perspective and an overall presentation perspective, a different level that we could probably avail ourselves of that might make it easier for both town staff to manage the content and for users to be able to find content. So it is something that is I think we have alignment across all of us on that opportunity. Chris, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Collaborate with Hale to permanently protect the land. So as you've heard in the select board update, there were efforts made, but unfortunately between Westwood and Dover, we were not able to reach agreement with Hale. However, I'm hoping to have an update from Hale. I'm hearing that there's still work going on regarding some type of protection of land. So I'm hoping to have that update to the select board as soon as Hale is completed with their work in that area. Pursue underground utilities. I thought this one was rather interesting because we do not have our own municipal light plant, and it's somewhat of a challenge to get the utility company to provide underground utilities. We did do some work on this, and we do continue to talk to the utility companies when certain town projects come up. Most recently, we did that with Canton Street, and but it is rather expensive to just for Canton Street. It was millions of dollars to put those utilities underground. That doesn't mean that we stop having those conversations with the utility companies with different projects, and we will continue to do so. And development and climate action, I want to give a positive comments to Elijah and Amanda for the work that they're doing with the climate action resiliency plan. As you know, that's coming out of the Community Economic Development Department, being co-led by the two of them, which is great work, and it's going to really help the community move forward, in my opinion. Consider climate action change in all town decisions. We continue to do so with different funding mechanisms or different opportunities that come up. Most recently was the Inflation Reduction Act. So we were able to apply for a program through the Pine Hill project. We have submitted the application, and we're waiting the final results from the federal government on that. If we are fortunate with our application, there could be one-time monies that come to the town that obviously would have to go towards that project, but it's one-time monies that would go to the town. So we are looking at different ways through our energy manager to provide additional sustainability, but also if there's a way to provide greater sustainability with improvements that are not on the backs of the taxpayers of Westwood. Consider creating a sustainability manager / planning position. We did have a position. It was a part-time position that was funded, but through the FY25 budget process, that position was cut. We did not have anyone in that position, but that is certainly something that we would be looking to bring back. Consider electronic vehicle stations for public use throughout the town. We have those. We have them. As I'm sure you're all aware, we have some dated ones at Carby. We are looking to improve those electric vehicle charging stations. We have a charging station at Wentworth Hall. We have some at the police station. We are waiting on some things that we need to do for those to actually go into complete use for the public. We also have charging stations at the Pine Hill School. We're also looking at charging stations at the library and the Council on Aging. So we are looking at using town facilities for additional charging for sustainability for the electric vehicles. And expand the emergency planning committee. So we are part of a regional emergency planning group. However, we have begun reviewing plans. We have provided training to team members. We are expanding the training. Matter of fact, we just had a subcommittee meeting regarding emergency planning today with our EOC group. So we have a plan in place that we've already begun initiating internally with our team members, and that we will be expanding to the community as we move later. We understand that the emergency planning work that we do is not just internal, it's a community-wide effort, but we want to make sure that we update our plan and we have the training with some of our team members before we expand that out a little further. So we are looking at a number of areas to improve when it comes to emergency planning and emergency preparedness. That vision will also include tabletop exercises that will include community stakeholders in addition to team members. And we'll continue to, we'll have an update to the select board as we move out throughout this process. Communicate importance of resilience planning. Again, the work that is being done by Community and Economic Development Department is really leading that charge on behalf of the town. So we certainly thank them for that. And I know, Elijah, we talked before just about hitting a couple of points. I just want to say, I think from the town administrator's standpoint, understand about communication with residents, understand improving communications with residents, improving the website, which is also an extension of communications with residents. We also are looking at different community partners and economic development. So I think those are really some of the high points from the town administrator side that we're looking to do, and really to make sure that our team members have the skills and the resources they do to do their jobs most effectively. So I think if there's any specific questions, I'm happy to answer any questions that any of the board members have.
Thank you very much. Yes, I would happily open up the floor to board member questions at this time. I saw a hand.
Yes.
Rob.
I just wanted to, on the emergency planning side of things, highlight, Chris, did you want to talk about the money we received from the state from what Senator Rush was able to do for us on the generator side of things?
Oh, thank you, Rob. Yes. So in addition to what we've been saying, both with the select board as well as the town administrator update, we continue to look for funding sources that are not Westwood tax based. And with the support of Senator Rush and Representative McMurtry, we were able to receive an earmark of $200,000 for emergency generators. Some of you may recall at the Maytown meeting, that article, which included some other things, was a total of $400,000, which did include emergency generators, did not pass. So one of the things that we were able to do was to work with Senator Rush and Representative McMurtry. So we do have that earmark of $200,000. In addition, we also have an earmark of $100,000 for the planning design of Westwood Fire Station 1. So we're very fortunate with the support of our state officials to assist Westwood in different ventures that we're doing in the working partnership we have. So again, this is just another example of the work that the select board and the team members have done and continue to do with different Westwood representatives.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? Kate.
Yeah, I'll just take this opportunity to say thank you again to Chris for his leadership and all the great work that he's been doing on behalf of the residents of the town of Westwood. It's been great fun to watch, and yeah, I'm an emergency preparedness person, so sometimes I wonder why I'm on the planning board, and then a meeting like tonight shows up and you're like, oh man, this is why I'm on the, like, this is so cool. So thank you for everything. And Elijah and Amanda, like, as was said, kudos to you. The work you're doing is so important. And anyway, just appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll echo that. That was very well said.
Thank you both. Any other questions, comments? Anything from board members?
Oh, Ellen, if I could just say one thing, I just want to comment on what Kate and Phil said. I want to say, first of all, thank you. But also just to make sure everyone understands, this is a truly team effort. So I will certainly share your kind words with our team. We do have a department head meeting later this week. I will certainly share with them and ask them to share with their teams. This is truly a full team effort. So thank you very much on behalf of everyone.
Thank you. Phil, I don't want to steal your thunder and ask the Phil question of the capital Q that you asked.
I'll delegate it to you, Ellen. I talk enough.
No, not at all. Phil, it's a good question. What can the planning board do to help you with these efforts moving forward?
I would suggest to continue doing what you have been doing. You've been very open and receptive to ideas. You've worked some scheduling challenges around when we have these, let's say, meetings that pop up to help us vet different matters out. So we certainly do appreciate all the work and the sacrifice that you provide to assist us in moving the town forward. So if you could continue to do that, that would be greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you. We will do our best to continue to do everything that we've been doing and then some. And yes, to echo my colleagues, thank you very much to everybody involved in these efforts for all the work, all the time, all the countless hours that everyone puts in. It does not go unnoticed, and it is much appreciated.
Really
Thank you.
tremendous appreciation. You guys do an extraordinary job, and it's greatly appreciated.
Alan, I just wanted to say, we've all been in environments where people are stuck in their silos. And I would like to thank each and every one of you. You're all very, very approachable and very helpful when I've had questions, especially as a new member. So thank you to all of you for your support and for your guidance and for your input and taking my calls when I've reached out to you. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. If there are no other questions or discussion, I would let the select board adjourn their meeting, and then the select board and town administration can continue on with their evening. And again, thank you for taking the time to be here and to share all of this with us and all of your continued work for our community.
Thank you. All.
Feelings mutual, and Chairman Privatera, I move that the select board meeting come to a close and adjourn.
I'll second that out of necessity. Roll call. Rob?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you all so much for inviting us this evening.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Thank you. All right. I do not see Steve Olenoff with us. So at this time, I think we should move along to agenda item number 2, unless anyone has any objections. I'm not hearing any. All right. So next on our agenda is 789 Clapboardtree Street, continuation of public hearing for consideration of an environmental impact and design review, EIDR approval for reconfiguring and restriping the rear portion of the parking lot to allow for 29 additional parking stalls and stormwater drainage improvements at 789 Clapboardtree Street, continued from August 6th, 2024. And I see members of the applicant team with us. Welcome.
Good evening. John Glossa and Dan Burke is here from LifeWorks. So the planning board had voted to approve and then but left the hearing open. So we met with Beta Engineering to discuss any revisions. I think at the meeting, we were, or the board was satisfied with the traffic aspect of the plan. And then it came down to the stormwater management aspect of the project. And what I told the board was I would meet with Phil Paradis from Beta, and whatever Phil asked for, essentially, we would get onto the plans. So that included a stormwater report, which includes an O&M plan, which is what operation and maintenance plan, which is what one of the things Phil was looking for that was kind of lacking in the original application. And then to the plan, basically, I think some of these have already been shown on the plan, but I'm just going to read them from a list that I provided to the Conservation Commission. The deep sump catch basins, which were on the plan, were replaced with, thanks, Elijah, if that was you, were replaced with garden turrets. I think those were already on the plan, but those are down on the south side of the parking lot. And what those do is allow the stormwater to enter into the detention basin with some fairly good TSS removal. The second thing was, in a little bit to the right behind the building, is Beta Phil had asked for a sediment forebay to be constructed at that point. So there's a drain pipe coming from a series of catch basins that come around the back of the building there, and you can see them. And that's where those catch basins discharge into the detention basin. So Phil had asked us to put a sediment forebay there, which is essentially is an apparatus which is going to catch some TSS before it's discharged directly into the stormwater basin. And then to the left side, and there was a little bit of this shown on the plan, but there's an outlet structure on this detention basin. We added more detail to that, added all the elevations. That actually has what we call a flashboard, right? So it's something that sort of sticks up a little bit higher than the bottom of the basin. And the reason that that's important is it allows us to capture just under 3,000 cubic feet of stormwater from the parking lot, and that then leaches into the ground and doesn't run off through the outlet structure and down to the wetlands below. And that's again is good it removes total suspended solids at actually a rate of about 80%, and it also removes phosphorus and nitrogen. But in this case, Beta was concerned that we were not capturing enough phosphorus. But turns out with that flashboard that we can easily catch the required amount of phosphorus. Then the proposed compost sock, which is the apparatus that's going to sort of prevent any loose materials from migrating down into the detention basin, was extended all the way along the southern edge of the detention basin. Not sure if they were shown before, but we added snow storage areas to the plan. And then it's not shown on this plan, but Phil had asked us, so there's two places where we're adding pavement. One is the little bit of an extension to the pavement, which is shown in red. So we drew a pavement cross-section for that to show how thick the pavement's going to be and how thick the gravel course underneath is going to be. And then the other place where we're adding pavement are those existing landscape islands that we're now going to abandon and turn into parking stalls. So we added a cross-section for those. It's just a little bit different than the other cross-section because there's already gravel under those. So we don't need to add that twice. We did add, we talked about it, but now we've sort of formalized it, the two landscape islands at the ends of each row of the interior parking stalls. And then finally, there was talk about the planting of the 12 trees because 6 trees are coming down. So what was decided, because it was kind of odd to get those 12 trees on this plan, because as you can see, the black dots, those are existing trees and those are all mature trees. So to kind of stick more trees in between them, and talking with Karen Skinner-Catroni there, in the end, it really didn't make a lot of sense. So 12 trees are going to be donated to the Westwood Tree Fund. And then 4 trees are going to be added, 2 in each of the new landscape islands. So those are the changes to the plan. I believe there was an email from Phil Paradis from Beta saying that we have now satisfied his peer review request. And so I guess we're just asking for you to close the hearing if that's what you would like to do. And tomorrow we're going to meet with the Conservation Commission, but obviously I'm in close contact with Karen Skinner-Catroni, your Conservation Commission agent, regarding this project. So we believe that tomorrow they're going to simply, it's like a modification to the plan that they saw originally. Those 8 things are the changes to the plans that they saw originally. They're all positive. They're all improvements. So we don't really, or I don't really anticipate that the Conservation Commission is going to do anything but other than accept the plan as it was modified. So thank you, Chair Rollins and the board. And if you have any questions, I can answer them, or Dan can answer them.
Thank you. Elijah, I do see your hand up first.
Yes, Madam Chair. Well, first, thanks, Amanda, on sharing the plan here. I will say that the applicant has worked extensively with Beta, the peer review engineer. Just to give an idea, going into the August meeting, there are about 14 outstanding items in the review as it related to stormwater, the site plan itself, zoning, and a few general comments. All of those have been addressed and are satisfied by the peer reviewer.
Thank you. And it does. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, and just as in a matter of the hearing, just because the Conservation Commission is going to meet tomorrow, the suggestion to the board, just for the applicant's knowledge, is to continue it to the 24th. We don't expect anything to change from tonight into the 24th, but in the event the Conservation Commission says anything, we just want to make sure that we have it open, and I would suggest to the board to most likely close it without discussion at the 24th.
Thank you. Yeah, procedurally, I think that makes sense. And I don't see Phil Paradis here. Looks like he's not here. Okay, so does that constitute the peer review update via you? Okay, thank you. All right, then at this time, I would happily open up the floor to board member question and comments. I'm not seeing any. Okay. Really, no board member questions and comments. Then I will simply say I reviewed the plans. I was actually happy with the plans at our last meeting. And as you alluded to, John, the changes you made to me are all positive changes. I like the changes. I'm even happier with this iteration of the plan. So I have nothing to add, particularly if Beta, who reviewed this very thoroughly, is satisfied. I'm more than happy to move on.
I'm going to echo that. I was just going to add the same. It looked like your team put together a great deal of effort, and that was appreciated. So that was just my comment.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, if there are no further board member questions or comments, any additional staff comments? No. All right. All right. Well, as this is a public hearing at this time, then I would open the floor up to public comment. If you'd like to offer a comment or ask a question, please either raise your hand and we'll promote you to panelist, or enter something in the Q&A. Just please make sure you include your full name and address for the record. Yes, I do see a hand, but I
maybe
do you want me to promote?
I don't think so.
Do we actually have the proponent state their name and address for a public comment if they're interested in the Q&A?
No, there's other comments from this person that are inappropriate. I don't know.
I agree. I don't think so.
It looks like I might have missed something.
Oh.
Yeah, the comments
prior,
that are in there.
The prior entry. I
Oh,
okay.
yes, I see.
Oh.
I'm going to defer on that one. That I'm not going to move forward with that. I think that is well within what's appropriate to pass on that. All right. Then if I'm not seeing any other residents who are interested in participating in public comment, I'm not. At this time, then I would entertain a motion.
Okay. 1 second.
I move that the planning board modify the limited environmental impact and design review EIDR approval granted to LifeWorks 789 Clapboardtree Street at its meeting on August 6, 2024 for the project described in the application therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on July 2nd, 2024 to replace the previously approved project plan set with the latest project plan set revised through September 3rd, 2024 with no changes to the conditions as of approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will take a roll call vote. Josh?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. The motion carries. Then at this time, I would entertain a motion to continue the public hearing.
I move that the planning board continue the public hearing for the limited EIDR public hearing for the parking lot expansion at LifeWorks 789 Clapboardtree Street as described in the application therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on July 2nd, 2024 to Tuesday, September 24th, 2024 at 7 p.m. via Zoom, where a Zoom link and associated call-in numbers will be provided on town's calendar on the homepage at https://www.townhall.westwood.ma.us/.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call. Kate?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries and the meeting is continued to September 24th. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chair Rollins and members of the board. And
Thank
thank
you.
you, Elijah and Amanda. I really appreciate your help. Thank you very much.
Thank you to everybody at Alpha LifeWorks. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
much.
you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
All right. I'm sorry, I gotta get back to my agenda here. Okay, so our next agenda item is 101 High Street. Continuation of public hearing for consideration of a shared driveway special permit approval for a shared driveway for 5 single-family residences at 101 High Street, continued from August 6th, 2024. Hearing to be continued to 9/24/24 for simultaneous meeting with the Conservation Commission. So I think I just answered my own question. It looks like we do have members of the applicant's team here, but apparently we are going to be continuing this hearing. Good evening.
Good evening. Yes, just a couple of points, if I may, very quickly. Earlier today, I had submitted to Elijah a request, just so everybody's aware, to continue the accompanying A&R plan, and to extend the date for the planning board to take action on that, since you can't take action on it until the special permit is addressed. Second, we do understand that there's going to be a continuance to have I believe, a joint meeting with the Conservation Commission on September
24th.
24th.
Thank you. And the only other outstanding issue is we learned, unfortunately, at another hearing in another town about Mr. Houston's passing. There's a question as to the continuing peer review on this. I apologize, Elijah. I did not have an opportunity to call you personally today. I've been a little bit crazy, but be that as it may, the applicant's team on that, there were 2 authors of, I believe, on the report, on the peer review report, and we basically have responded to everything. There was some suggestion that of bringing Vader in at this point. The applicant team just, I know Elijah, I saw a thing from our engineers that did talk to Elijah that there was an attempt to reach out to Mr. Houston firm, but nobody was able to get it. We would just like a couple more days to try to do that, because we believe we responded adequately to all of Mr. Houston's comments, which were, as you know, his reports quite extensive. And again, we have no issue with Beta. If somebody from Mr. Houston's firm cannot continue, we understand that, and will gladly work with Beta. We just don't want to start the whole process over again with a new peer reviewer. So I'd like to just throw that out if I may. So we figure if we can't reach somebody this week and resolve it, then we'd have to move on to Beta.
Yes, so Madam Chair, so I did have this as a administrative item for the end of the agenda, but as it's being mentioned now, I just wanted to, well, first of all, just in the public forum, I send my condolences to the Houston family. Definitely an unfortunate and sudden passing. And in this instance, I did confer with Nora, and so we'll be reaching out to PSC. We still do have the contract with them. We have reached out to Beta in the event that they are not responsive, and later on I can share. Beta has provided a potential scope and fee in the event we're not able to close it out with PSC.
Thank you. All right. Aside from that, if we're going to continue the hearing to the 24th, we should probably do that with no further discussion, correct? Okay. Then with that being said, I would entertain a motion to continue the public hearing. I think we have one written somewhere. Thank you.
I move that the planning board continue the public hearing for the shared driveway special permit for 101 High Street as described in the application therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on July 3rd, 2024 to Tuesday, September 24th, 2024 at 7 p.m. via Zoom, where a Zoom link and associated call-in numbers will be provided on town's calendar on the homepage at https://www.townhall.westwood.ma.us/.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take roll call. Josh?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. We will take this up at our meeting on the 24th with the Conservation Commission. Then our next agenda item is related. It would be the public meeting to consider the proposed approval not required plan for 101 High Street, which, as we heard, we are also going to continue this item. So without discussion. So I would entertain a motion at this time.
I move that the planning board accept the applicant's waiver of time pursuant to MGL section 81P of chapter 41 and continue the approval not required application for 101 High Street dated May 30th, 2024 to Tuesday, September 24th, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will take a roll call. Kate?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries, and that is also continued. I would just like to take a moment. I was very shocked to hear that Tom Houston had passed away. And on a personal note, and I don't like to speak for the board, so correct me if you all don't agree, but I found working with him, he made my job personally so much easier. His peer reviews were exemplary, and I personally believe many of the projects in Westwood are better for his input. So I would like to also send my condolences and the board's condolences to his family. It's a big loss. Yes, thank you for indulging me for that moment. All right, our next agenda item, then we're now on to number 5, 22 Everett Street. Public meeting for consideration of a modification to a mixed-use multifamily residential overlay district, MUMFROD special permit at 22 Everett Street. And I see we already have our applicant team here. So hello, welcome.
Hi, are the Bowler people on? We have, I just don't see them listed, so I'm.
He's joining right now.
Thank you. There we go.
And then I see Mr. Foster in the attendees. Should I be promoting him too, or is he just here to watch?
Uh, is- Zach, is Angela attending as well or no?
No, it's just me tonight.
Okay, great, thank you.
Well, welcome back, everybody, and happy to hand you the floor to share your presentation with us.
Sure. I'll do a very quick opening. We have, as plans always develop, there's minor tweaks and changes, and I think the report we got back is that individually they were minor, and I guess if you have too many minor, then it's best practice to bring it back to the planning board for the modification. So Zach's going to go into the civil, which is probably more of the minor than the architectural. Just from the architectural, to bring the board up to speed, I think it was back in, I always get building A or B, but I think it was building A, which is the building in the rear.
No,
Of the
building
building in the
A
front,
is-
the front building. Okay, let's call it the front building. In the front building where we revised the bedrooms. So it came to our attention that there were some either older or different plans floating around. So we revised the location and counts of the 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units throughout that building. The total number of units and bedrooms remains the same, but we did that to bring it into compliance with the decision, which specified the breakdown of the number of units and bedrooms, et cetera. So that was just to bring the plan into compliance. It didn't change the size, et cetera. In addition to that, when we had originally submitted the plans on the commercial space, it showed it broken down into 3 potential spaces. We've now showing that as 4. We just believe it just provides more flexibility and opportunity relative to potential leasing of that space. There were also some minor changing to the building facade and window door layouts based on just developing the interior unit plans and the ground floor entrances, but building heights and all materials all remain the same as approved on the planning board drawings. And this is more of, I think it's more of a site plan issue, but we also increased the number of EV charging stations so that we now comply with the energy code and have the full 20% of all parking as EV chargers. Having said that, with your permission, I'd like to turn it over to Zach Richards from Bowler, who will go over the other changes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, members of the board. Good to see you all again tonight, and thank you for your time. I'll be very brief too. As Peter alluded to, it's really some minor refinement and additional detail that was added to the plans as part of advancing them to construction document level. And I think these are all positives, and most will agree. However, cumulative and again minor in nature, cumulatively I think the departments felt it was worth reappearing and resubmitting to the planning board. So I wasn't planning to run through plans. It's again pretty minor nuances. It was really additional detailing of hardscape. So just a little bit of refinement of paver areas, some exposed aggregate hardscape surfacing, all really, niceties, I think, that will add to a lot of the courtyard and amenity space and some of the walking paths around the property. There was just minor refinement to some of those landscape walls as part of the hardscape and just layout tweaks. And in the amenity space, some additional detailing of a timber trellis, and then additional trees also throughout the site. So I think everyone can agree that we could always use some more landscaping and more trees. Again, all positive improvements, but some minor changes that came with advancing the plans from your typical design development level of at entitlement level design to building permit and construction detailed level. And then the additional EV charging stations as well that were added to the site plan, as well as in the garage. So with that, I don't want to take more of the board's time than necessary. I see Amanda's pulled up the plan for reference. Appreciate that. But happy to discuss or show any of that detailing. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, I would open up the floor to board member questions or comments. Kate.
Yeah, thank you. I am curious. I'm looking at the elevations, the left side elevation, the current versus the proposed.
Give me a second to pull it up.
Yeah, thank you. And when we get there, I think you'll see. I'm just concerned. It's just a lot of blank wall where we used to have windows, and I'm wondering why that is.
What sheet is it, Kate?
I don't know what sheet it's on. I'm looking in what I have from Elijah.
I can share that, Amanda.
Okay, thanks.
It's on
yeah.
page 11.
Just for the applicant's sake, I just kind of looked at what was proposed and showed kind of what was current and then versus what's proposed for the sake of the board.
And so I'm just noticing, far left, a lot of windows are gone, and bottom right, especially for me, I just don't love all the lots of brick, and I'm wondering why the change.
So I can actually answer that. I'm Giorgio Petruzziello. I'm the developer of the property. So some of the layouts of the windows have changed because of the interior of the units, where, for example, the kitchens or the bathroom laid out. So some areas we could add windows. So this situation where you see on the upper left corner of your screen of the plan, excuse me, there was more windows added on the back section than on the side. Keep in mind, this was also the train side. So we kind of did some movement around with the train and adding more windows to the left side. I mean, the back side of it. So it really came down to when we did do all the layouts, and the plumbing and everything else of how everything laid out. This is how it laid out. We on the back left corner. On the right side, I can't see. Oh, so that right side is the electric room. So we have all our electrical panels, all our components in that room, and that wall is used for breakers, all the sub panels and everything else. All the solar power is coming into that room on the right side.
Can you do something to that wall to make it look like you bricked over a window or something? It's a lot of brick.
That's all shingle.
Oh, it's a lot of then it's a lot of shingle.
Are you talking about the bottom right? I'm
Yeah.
having a hard time seeing what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Now,
right
keep in mind
there.
that elevation is about 16 feet further back than the turret. It's not a plan. You're looking at an elevation plan, so it's not completely flat. So if you're standing at the elevation, that wall is 16 feet further away from that. And there's all the trees and landscape that are in that area. So that wall, you won't, unfortunately, it doesn't show that all the landscaping that's in the front there, all the bike racks. So you
Okay.
won't see that wall completely bare.
I understand you. When I totally understand you. I'm just a little concerned. There's a significant loss of window along that side of the building, and I appreciate on the first floor, having a higher window for a lot of those residences might be better than, right? They're going to have more wall space as you head towards the back of the building. I just and I appreciate those corner units will probably gain on the back side what they're losing on this side. I just didn't love it, but you've answered me, and I hear you.
Thank you. Were there any other questions from board members? I had a couple. First of all, I actually, I read through all of this and I love more trees and I love getting rid of grass and replacing it with wildflowers. I think that's excellent for many reasons. My one note on that is just a little reminder, please make sure you choose a Northeast native wildflower mix because there are, there's a variety of wildflower mixes. So please make sure it's a Northeast native. I was curious about the changes to the seating area. It doesn't look to me like that's going to affect runoff in any way, but I just kind of wanted to confirm that that's not going to affect runoff in any way.
In which area is that, in the courtyard area?
Yeah, the expansion there. It didn't look to me, my eye is far less trained than a stormwater management person, but I just kind of wanted to make sure that that doesn't impact anything as far as runoff or stormwater goes.
No, yeah, we did evaluate that. We were, greatly reducing runoff from that area and capturing, that sufficiently. They were really, it was a little bit conservatively sized, I guess, as well as what we tried to do during the entitlement design. But we did rerun those numbers as we got to CDs. We added some landscaped in some areas, and then a little bit of a trade-off here and there, but did confirm that there were no impacts to the stormwater design as previously approved and currently proposed.
Excellent, thank you. And my only other question was just out of interest, the ask to go from 3 retail bays to 4. I don't have an issue with that, but I'm just curious what kind of precipitated the change. Do you have folks that are kind of interested, potential tenants?
We do not. It's just more for flexibility. When we do start advertising for the space, having a range of, a smaller retail to multiple, that may change to 2, it may change to 1, it may be 4, but we just want the flexibility to advertise it the right way.
That makes sense, because yeah, that retail one initially was quite large. So
Exactly.
I understand. That makes sense. That were the only questions that I had. So thank you. Any other questions from board members? I don't want to cut anyone off. No? Any other questions? Oh, sorry, or comments from staff?
I see the proposed changes. I suggest the board consider them minor in nature, and I do have a list of conditions if they are to approve them.
Excellent, thank you. And yes, this was a public meeting. So, all right. At this time, then, I would happily entertain a motion.
I move that I'm looking to see who's unmuted.
I thought Josh was going to go, but
Me too.
Kate, you're up. You're
Okay.
up.
I move the planning board determine the modification of the mixed use and multifamily residential overlay district MUMFROD special permit and consolidated environmental impact design review EIDR approval for 2022 Everett Street as described in the application, therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on August 2nd, 2024 to be minor in nature.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take roll call. Kate.
Aye.
Phil.
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. We have a second motion. This one has a lot of conditions in it, so.
I saw Phil turn his head, so I'll read this one as well. Okay. I move that the planning board grant the minor modification of the mixed use and multifamily residential overlay district MUMFROD special permit and consolidated environmental impact and design review EIDR approval for 2022 Everett Street as described in the application, therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on August 2nd, 2024, subject to the following conditions. 1, except as modified by the conditions and findings hereof, the project shall comply with the project plans and with the conditions of all prior decisions in all respects, and the applicant shall pursue completion of the project with reasonable diligence and continuity. 2, if the project or any condition imposed in this decision requires any other permit, license, or other approval from any board or commission or any agency of the town of Westwood or other regulatory agency of the Commonwealth or the federal government, the applicant shall make an appropriate application for the same and shall obtain all required approvals prior to the start of any work. If any condition of such permit, license, or other approval from any other board, committee, or agency is inconsistent with this decision, the applicant shall make application to the planning board for an amendment of this decision, and the planning board shall consider such application in accordance with the requirements of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, and all applicable planning board rules and regulations. Thank you. 3, any proposed alterations, modifications, deletions, or changes to the decision shall be requested in writing to the town planner and building commissioner prior to implementation. A, proposed alterations which are considered de minimis by the building commissioner may be accepted as a note to file. B, proposed alterations which are considered minor by the building commissioner shall require the filing of a modification application of said approval for review by the planning board at a publicly posted planning board meeting. C, proposed alterations which are determined to be major by the building commissioner or by the planning board shall be considered by the planning board as a formal amendment to the approval and will require a new public hearing before the planning board. 4, any proposed alterations to building B must come before the planning board for a modification determination. That's
I
it.
have a motion.
Second.
Yeah. All
That was
right.
too long of
I
a
have-
pause, Josh. You had go quickly.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I will just note, I appreciate condition number 4, just for anyone who's watching now or later. This was purely about building A, which would be the mixed use building. This has nothing to do with any changes to the residential building at the back of the lot. So if there were any proposed changes to that, there would be a separate discussion about that. All right. Any other discussions? Seeing none, I'll take roll call. Kate,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. The motion carries. Thank you,
Hey,
Great.
everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you in a few weeks. Have a good night.
Yes, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Have a good night.
All
Good night.
right. All right. Next agenda item is number 6. 9 Appleseed Lane, public meeting for consideration of a modification to an open space residential development OSRD special permit at 9 Appleseed Lane. And I don't see the applicant here. Yes, Elijah.
Yes, so I guess a few updates. One, the applicant has reached out and asked for a continuance. One for the modification, and 2 has asked for a continuance and granted a waiver of time for the A&R plan. Basically the modification is to allow for the A&R plan. And so there were several deficiencies that I had noted to the applicant, and his engineer is working on updating the plan.
All right. So it sounds like we would just continue this item
Correct.
to a future meeting. All right. And then is it all right if I just kind of address item number 7 while we're having this conversation, or should I take them separately because they are related?
You can take both of them. They're both public meetings. I do have motions for each.
We have motions for each. That's kind of what I was thinking. All right. So item number 7 is public meeting for consideration of the proposed approval not required A&R plan at 9 Appleseed Lane that you just referenced, and just so we have authorization from the applicant to extend on that as well. because there's a clock on that. So we have to either take action or not, but we did get the authorization on that.
That is correct.
All right. All right. So it sounds like we are going to continue both of these items to a future meeting. So without discussion, we can entertain some motions.
I move that the planning board accept the applicant's request for the board to postpone consideration of the modification to the Morgan Farm Estates Open Space Residential Development, OSRD, definitive subdivision in Morgan Farm Estates, OSRD EIDR approval to allow for the reconfiguration of parcels at 9 Appleseed Lane and 63 Morgan Farm Road until the board's next meeting on September 24th, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take roll call. Kate?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries, and we will discuss that on September 24th. I would entertain another motion.
I move that the planning board accept the applicant's waiver of time pursuant to MGL Section 81P of Chapter 41 and continue the approval not required application for 9 Appleseed Lane and 63 Morgan Farm Road to Tuesday, September 24th, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take roll call. Phil?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. We will, motion carries, and we will discuss that as well on September 24th. All right. So now we are on to item number 8, potential warrant articles. Discussion of potential warrant articles for the November 2024 Fall Town Meeting, if any, and the May 2025 Annual Town Meeting. Yes, Amanda.
I just want to alert you that Steve Olenoff has joined the attendees, so for you to decide when he wants to present his head bike implementation update.
Well, that is a good question. I guess we should figure out whether we want to continue with that this evening or defer it to a future meeting, depending on time. What time is it now? We're at 9:08. What are folks thinking?
I'm fine with it.
With which?
With him presenting.
With moving forward. Okay. And would we prefer to do that now so that if Steve chooses not to stay for the discussion of warrant articles, he can leave after that?
I would say we do it now. Let Steve present.
That seems reasonable. All right. Then I redact what I just said about item number 8. We are going to go back to item number 1 and have Steve Olenoff do the comprehensive plan updates on the pedestrian bike safety. Yes, Kate.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to so pedestrian bike safety is my favorite subject on the planet. I do just want to see if we can just schedule a time that we would like, maybe 20 minutes. I just throwing a time out there for this subject.
Agreed. I think given that we still have a few things to get through and the hour is late, I think that's reasonable. Thank you. Elijah, if you wouldn't mind keeping an eye on the clock for us. Thank you. Hi, Steve. Welcome.
Hello. All right, so I'm Steve Olenoff, and I actually am an associate member of the planning board, but I'm here tonight as I'm the vice chair of the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee. So let's run down the items that are here on the on the list of various things from the comprehensive plan. So the first one is TC11, and that one has to do with town centers. And as you know, the Ped Bike Committee has been participating in the planning board meetings and anything that's related to any bike issues, whether it's town centers or not. We've been here. So the most recent one was 22 Everett Street, and we are trying to get the pedestrian connection, a nice path to the railroad station. That didn't happen, so we're rather disappointed in that. But you know, we're always trying. And big item on this that was mentioned on this is the Gay Street sidewalk, and the Ped by committee is continuing to strongly advocate for the Gay Street sidewalk to connect the two town centers. That's actually a very high priority on the for the Ped by committee. So I think you should, anyone who wants to ask any questions on each one of these as we go. So any questions, and I'll move on to the next one. E11 on the economic development is to maintain the street and sidewalk program. So the good news as part of this is that the DPW has been following the town's complete street policy, and the town's complete street policies really requires consideration of all users of all streets. So as part of this, whenever they have the road improvement program every year, they've been replacing sidewalks as well as the road for repaving, and the sidewalks either get replaced, repaved, or there's just as much attention paid to the sidewalks as there is to the street, and that really is a big item in our town's complete streets policy. Part of that, we continue to advocate for the Gay Street sidewalk and also the Canton Street project. This is under economic development, so the Gay Street sidewalk would connect the two town centers, but also the Canton Street one would then connect the third economic center, which is the University Station, and which people are talking about regarding that as like an actual, almost a third town center. There's been a lot of talk about that regarding it that way, and so those two sidewalks would connect all three, and we have our two old town centers and our new town center at University Station connected by sidewalks. Going on, NC 26 continue to utilize the Westwood Community Trails Program. So the Westwood Community Trails Program, it's been conducting monthly hikes. They've been well attended, and the residents appreciate them. Yeah, a number of out-of-town people show up. They do an Earth Week cleanup every year. As part of that program, Adopt the Trail program has not been started, and the annual leadership training session that hasn't been done. COVID was, really put a stumbling block in everything there. So that's one of the reasons why they haven't done those things. So that's for the future updates. We have to get going on doing the Adopt the Trail program and getting the leadership training done. Next is NC 27, connections to the Blue Hills, a trail, and now this is a big one. The Canton Street interchange project, which I've been advocating for years and years, well, 25 years over, and it's that would create the really good connections from Westwood to the Blue Hills Reservation. Until that happens, that's just not possible. There is a way to get from the railroad station and University Station, but it's very convoluted and a little rugged in a few places. So the Canton interchange done by MassDOT would create some very nice connections, even a bridge over the river, the Neponset River, to make the connection to the Burma Road Trail. So we all need to continue to advocate for that and try to get that funding. It's just it hasn't risen to a high enough priority to get the money for that. Now, there is a connection in there which hasn't been done, was supposed to have been done as part of the University Station project, was right by the Marriott Courtyard Hotel. We've laid out a path that would lead right to the railroad station. Right now you have to go around very convenient path that will connect the pedestrian paths at University Station with the railroad station. And it actually would be part of the Warrant Trail connection also when everything happens with the interchange project. So we need to get back on that. This is something I have to challenge the planning board to get more involved in this and to say, okay, why isn't that path being done? The holdup supposedly is that they needed approval from but Homeland Security. I'm not sure where that came from and why they're making such a big deal out of it. So we need to pursue that. The planning board needs to pursue that to ensure that we get the completion of that path to the railroad station. Anyone wants to see where it is, it's right next to the station. I can take, anyone really wants to see it, I can take you down there and show it to you. It's all built, but it has to be paved, and the emergency exit changed into a regular exit, which New England Development said they would spend the money to do that, and that would be a great connection that's really needed. Now, some good news is that the Dedham Street corridor, it's actually part of the Canton Interchange project, which has been it's been done in pieces over the years, and this is the latest piece, and it's a major piece of the project. The real thing that needs to be done is the ramps, the direct ramps over the interchange itself, and that hasn't been done yet. But this part has been done. It's well, it's right by Top Golf, that section right there, and as part of that, as part of the trail connections that are built into the whole project, there's a way you can cross the street there now where you can actually walk under Dedham Street on a boardwalk that's been constructed as part of that project. And that'll connect University Avenue with University Road into the Trustees Signal Hill Reservation. That needs to be publicized. I was thinking maybe I should lead a hike there sometime. Everyone should become aware of that and start using it, because worked hard to get that done as part of the project. Anyone have any questions? No?
Looks like Kate has her hand up.
Okay, I can't, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I wanted to actually go back to, we don't have to scroll back, but the when you were talking about community trails and how those hikes are well attended, I just want to help people understand, what kind of numbers are you actually talking about? You get a fair amount of people.
Yeah, 10, 15 on a small one. We've gotten as many as 25 people.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean, and it's very much a word of mouth thing. So there is strong interest when people know about these things. I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, so the publicity is being done by Hale. That's part of the contract that the town has with Hale, is to do the publicity and organization for that. So Hale is just as a new director, and I'll be speaking to him soon about this and getting the that even more participation and more things happening on that. All right, so where was I on? Okay, next is CF11, and that's pedestrian improvements through the sidewalk prioritization program. So first of all, several years ago, DPW did a complete study of all pedestrian crossings in town, and they've implemented those recommendations. The crosswalks were upgraded with better marking, signs, flashing lights. You probably noticed them throughout the town, that there are more flashing lights at various crosswalks. So the Ped Committee needs to continue to review those improvements, see if anything's been overlooked or further improvements are needed. And of course, we always invite residents to come and see if they have anything, or they have anything that they think needs to be improved. So we're trying to encourage more residents to do that. So another thing is we are working on the Canton Street sidewalk project. The Ped Bike Committee has a member on the Canton Street Citizens Working Group, and so we're encouraging those improvements and combinations for Canton Street. The and again, the reason is connects the neighborhood with University Station and the rest of the town. The recently project was done to put sidewalks on Downey Street, so that's another piece of the puzzle there, connecting that. So with the Canton Street, there will be complete connection from University Station up Canton Street to the Downey Street, and that'll get you right to Islington. And then, of course, with the sidewalks on Gay Street, that would connect everything. So that's what we have to continue to work on getting both of those projects done, getting sidewalks so that the town will really be connected. CF 24, oh, that's the last one already. Went through this pretty fast. No, wait, no, it isn't the last one. Oh, I got a more page. Okay. CF 24. Oh, yeah, devote staff to the website updates and communications. Yeah, and if you read it, we have no staff, but we do have a very dedicated volunteer from the committee who's recently kept the website up to date on everything about the Ped Bike Committee, and he'll continue to do that. Don't ask me who he is; I have no idea. So that's that's if you're alert, you might be able to figure out who that is. T7, working towards implementing recommendations of the Denham Westford Pedestrian Connection Plan. So a while back, there was a plan mapped out by MAPC that did a pedestrian bicycle plan for both the town of Westwood and Dedham. We've actually been working with it's called the Dedham Active Transportation Group. It's a rather independent group of people who are doing the same kind of thing that the Ped Bike Committee in Westwood is doing. We had them over to one of our meetings, and so we've been talking to them and seeing what's happening in Dedham, and we'll continue to do that. And of course, again, we're on this Canton Street Working Group. We're participating in that, and I've already mentioned the Downey Street Sidewalk Project, which provides important link and connection to that. So, so when we talk about a pedestrian, plan or a trails plan, this is mentioned in some places, you can't have trails connecting all of Westwood, but we can have sidewalks and trails doing that. And that's the reality of the situation is that we can have trails in some places and we can get sidewalks connecting them, and we'll have a nice system throughout the town. We won't have it in some other towns. They really have trails from one end of the town to the other. That's just not possible in Westwood.
Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
We only have so much time because we have some other things. I want to make sure that you hit on the bottom of this page, right? 22 and 34. I think those are, in my opinion, just a couple of key things I'd really love for you to just share with this.
Okay. So so I actually did, I think I just did T9, and yeah, a lot of it's the same what I've been saying. And Safe Routes to School, we've always been trying to get participation from people, the schools, that's been tough, and that's something we need to do. So T22, so we always invite residents to come to our meetings, and so we've had problems here in the past. So we want to, this is important to bring up. There's always been a question, like if a resident has a problem with traffic on their street or safety, who do they go to first? Do they go to the select board? Do they go to the planning board? Do they go to the ped bike? And it's, they've said, well, they should go to the ped bike, but it's been not completely clear. So I think that needs to be, the town needs to make it clear what the order of priorities is there. Because at the ped bike meeting, we generally have a police officer there. And we hopefully have DPW there. And so it's a good place where we can come together and figure out, okay, what's the nature of the problem, what needs to be done, and what are the options available. So we have to work on that. But in order to do that, those ex officio town staff members need to be more consistent in attending the meetings, and that's been problematic. So we either need regular written reports or actual attendance from them. I know we get that Kate's been attending and telling us what's happening on the planning board. So that's an issue. So Josh, you had a question?
Yeah, I can wait till you're done. I mostly want to say thank you, Kate, for being our liaison here. But actually, to T34 and to our next topic of proposed warrant articles, I did bring up something relevant here, which was the opt-in for the 25 mile per hour speed limit for sections of the town.
Yep.
Which I think will help formulaically spur some action from our local police force that do traffic studies, and then as a function of that posted speed limit, there's only so much they can propose to do if it's within certain standard deviations of that. And I'm sure this off the top of your head, but this is coming from memory for me. But by lowering it even by 25 miles an hour, by 5 miles an hour, is actually substantially increasing our level of I'll call it protective factors in allowing us to change traffic calming requirements for the town after they do a traffic study, because intrinsically that speed limit will be lower and people still drive the same speed. So that is actually something that I want to do this year. Whether it passes or not, who knows? But that's my vote for. So hopefully that is in line with what you guys see for some solutions.
So we actually took this up several years ago, probably a number of years ago by this time. And that was at the beginning when the law was first passed, and other towns were adopting it, and we considered adopting it. And our police liaison at the time, the police officer said, well, he brought up a number of problems with it. And I think the fact that it's worked so well in other towns and so many neighboring towns indicates that we got to start thinking about that again. It's worked well, and
it must be
surrounding
nearly
towns
100
adopting
other municipalities in the state, right? It looks close.
Yeah, a lot of them, and a lot of them surrounding us. So that was one of the problems he brought up, is it's not clear. People don't understand it. People go from one town to the next town. They don't get it. But that's not a problem anymore, because people are getting used to it. They've gotten used to it. They understand it. So I think, yes, now would be a good time to bring that up again. And I'll bring that back to the Ped Bike Committee as an issue that we should be taking up.
Yeah, and Steve, sorry, Kate, one other thing just to double down on what you're saying. Like, it's also just the formulaic part of it. It doesn't matter if people recognize it, but we can affect change based off of those formulas that public safety uses during these traffic studies. Because I've repeatedly asked at certain areas to do traffic studies, and it's come back and they've said, well, it's not far enough outside of that standard deviation. We're not going to do anything. So that is one way to start to force that evidentiary formulaic process. So sorry, Kate.
No, you're good. So for those of you watching, if you're interested, Ped Bike meets, what is it, Steve? The fourth Thursday of every month?
Fourth Thursday
Fourth Thursday of every month at 7:30, usually at Carby Street. There'll be an announcement on the website with the agenda.
We've been doing it at the police station lately.
Oh, at the police station.
We've been trying to get it. Yeah, it's more convenient at the police station.
Anyway, check the website. If you want to talk to people who are thinking about traffic, are thinking about what your street is like, this is the group of people to connect with. And as you can see, their ideas make their way back to the planning board. And so, Steve, thank you so much for your work. I just wanted to say that.
I'm going to just
Good.
jump in really quickly because I live in the maze and we have historically had the high school kids zipping through our neighborhood. It is very heavily with lots of little kids, and it is a frustration to me that it, the baton gets passed to various and nothing gets done. And my kids are out of high school and beyond that now, but it is a huge frustration.
So one of the things that's not here anywhere, but we've always said that we shouldn't be encouraging so many kids to be driving their own cars to school. More people should be taking the school bus. That would solve a lot of problems that we have and improve safety.
Steve, my neighborhood is a parking lot for the overflow from the high school.
Yeah.
Because some kids, I mean, there's more kids that have cars, even when it's a short distance, or they could take the bus. So that is a big issue.
So one thing I missed in here somewhere that I was going to mention is one of the solutions to a lot of the problems we have with safety and traffic is and congestion, because everyone complains about congestion, is what I call shuttle bus service. It's also called like first mile, last mile. It's also micro transits, it's been called. It's how to get people around both within Westwood and get people to the railroad station from their houses and back again. That's where they get the term first mile, last mile. So everyone isn't driving to all those places and encouraging more people to take public transportation. So now the bus, I just reported about the 34 e-bus down Washington Street. And I know a lot of people have said, well, why don't we have a bus down Route 109? And I spoke to the T during, they're revising the bus, they have a better bus project. And they clearly said there's not enough, they feel there's not enough demand along the Route 109 corridor for a bus. And they're probably right, but there's still a problem there with people want to get around. And the solution to that would be on-demand shuttle bus service. And I think everyone needs to start thinking about that and advocating. Actually, the planning department has already applied for a grant there, and so they are working on that. I think more people need to get involved and get behind that. And they're talking about combining several communities together, like Dedham, Westwood, Norwood, to get a shuttle bus system. It might be more feasible and easy to do if several communities were doing that together. So that's something I wanted to point out and bring up. And because the whole idea, and the last one we have here, of course, is consider climate change in all town decisions. And basically everything the PEDBI committee does, because we want to improve and encourage pedestrian and bicycle use, and that is a very positive thing for climate change. And the addition of the concept of a shuttle bus and getting a shuttle bus there, that goes even way further in getting and fighting climate change. So I just wanted to really stress that.
Thank you. Elijah, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, just wanted to mention that we pretty much were on time, and I definitely concur with a lot of the conversation as it relates to microtransit and better pedestrian safety.
Okay, Phil, you have something?
Yeah, I would just add the school committee for as it relates to at least the high school, because that was not inclusive. And I think the schools should be brought in because we're talking about climate change, but you have, an extraordinary number of kids at the high school that have cars when they probably it would be helpful partly for traffic, for people for commuting, to I don't want to say disincentivize, but less incentives for all the kids that do feel the need to drive.
Yeah, there's a need, and we tried getting participation from school committees and schools, and it just hasn't happened. But it's something we have to, yeah, continue to do. So that's an effort, but yeah, we should be going in that direction.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anything
Thank you.
further?
No, I think that was really comprehensive, and any of the thoughts that I had have already been expressed. So unless any other board members had questions or comments?
Okay, then I will sign
Thank
up.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you
Thanks
for
for
your
coming,
time
Steve.
and
Thank you.
for everything you do. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
All right. Sorry, let me find my meeting outline again. Okay, so what number were we at? Oh, yes, number 8, potential warrant articles. Discussion of potential warrant articles for the November 2024 fall town meeting, if any, and May 2025 annual town meeting. And we sort of kind of segued into that with some of the topics that came up during Steve's presentation. So Elijah, are you going to take point on this?
Yes. So I just wanted to put on your radar for a potential fall town meeting, if there is one, and for the upcoming May town meeting, that the governor has signed into law the Affordable Homes Act, which within it has a legislative section that relates to ADUs, making them by right. So that is definitely kind of at the top of the list in terms of how the town can adjust accordingly to the state's legislation. Currently, they've put a deadline of February 2nd, 2025 to update current zoning. However, EOHLC has yet to issue any guidance as it relates to, complying with the new law. I was on a webinar earlier today. They did mention that they should be having some type of guidance within the next 30 days. And so I guess just to go very briefly into it, just because the town is still actively looking into how to work with this new legislation, is that to qualify as an ADU, a unit size cannot exceed 1/2 of the gross floor area of the principal dwelling, or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. And as it relates to actually regulating these ADUs on a local level, currently the town goes through a special permit process with the CBA. However, the new law would reduce that kind of restriction to more of a limited site plan overview, but there's still again needing to look at how the guidances will work out. So this is definitely an evolving matter, but just want to let the board know that this would definitely be at the top of the list in terms of looking into warrant articles.
Hey, Elijah, I was just wondering, do we still have a grasp of what was discussed last time we were wrapping up warrant articles before town meeting? I know there was a couple that we decided to defer. I think one of them was the scenic roadway update. I think there might have been one or two other items. If not, we can just dig back in our minutes, but I don't know if you happen to have that work in draft.
Yeah, I don't have that on hand, and I can definitely look into that for you, Josh. But as it relates to additional items for warrant articles, The AG did come back and confirm that our zoning for Mumford expansion was in compliance. And so, well,
Oh,
at least for the
well,
AG's office.
clarify that. So there's a difference between compliance and approval from the AG. They approved the bylaw itself, in other words, the text. But we still have to go through the compliance process to get that determination, which we're submitting a grant. I'm going to do it tomorrow for the economic feasibility analysis. We have to have that in order to have the affordability component. And that's been holding us from being able to submit the compliance model, but otherwise it's ready to go. So we have not received a determination of compliance that is separate from this approval.
Thank you, Amanda. So yes, AG approval is good. Next step would be EOHLC's compliance. So we've been able to pass one hurdle and in moving towards a full expansion for our Mumford district. So that is a second item of discussion. And then the third that was kind of mentioned in the last round that I did bring back up was the gas leaf blower bylaw. That was mentioned in the CRS plan. There are various towns that do restrict, the gas leaf blowers and other lawn equipment of that nature. And so it would be a consideration of the town, or at least this board, if they want to present to the town for restrictions as it relates to the time of year, the time of day, and whether it's residents or commercial contractors and how those are being used. I did send a brief synopsis to the board, and so those are the kind of the three things on the list that I want to present, being the ADUs, the Mumford expansion, and the gas leaf blower bylaw.
Thank you. The ones that I remember from last time, definitely the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. I know we touched on it. And the one that was of particular interest to me was exploring a tree canopy bylaw. And I know that Nora had taken a look at some benchmarks, but that it was going to be a lot of, it wasn't a simple thing to do. And that with the MBTA zoning, there really wasn't time to do that, which I completely understood. So I personally would be interested in bringing that back to the table unless something else comes up from the state that's going to take up our time and not allow for us to explore other things. But I think particularly given that the Conservation Commission has recently really revamped their tree and tree placement, tree planting regulations and policies, it might be kind of synergistic for us the two could work very well hand in hand to kind of protect our overall in-town tree canopy and make sure that it continues to thrive even as it changes. So that's one that I'd like to go back to, and I'm interested in revisiting the speed limit one as well. Sorry, I usually don't jump in before the rest of you all, but those were, to answer your question, those were the ones that I remembered. I do vaguely remember something about the scenic way, but I don't remember what it was.
We'll just dig through the minutes. We'll between the what is it? Yeah. 6-7 of us will figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Did any other board members have thoughts or interests for potential warrant articles that you'd like to see us explore?
So I just want to support the 25-mile-an-hour one. That I think that would be fantastic. And my recollection of the scenic streets was Nora, I think, was asking us what we had an interest in revisiting. So I don't think we had a particular thing. Sorry, I don't think we had a particular thing that was driving it, other than we thought we might have the bandwidth to look at it and see what changes we needed.
I echo both of those, especially the 25. I think that's a big issue.
Agreed. I think, can you all hear me? My earbuds died. I had to switch back to, okay. I've had a few residents ask me about it because they remembered hearing something about it and they were curious if we were going to come back to it. So I think there's some interest in the community about that. And, to your point, Phil, I feel like I'm driving down highway, on 109, I'm doing the speed limit and someone's about to be in my trunk and I'm not driving too slow. So like, I think there's a lot more speeding going on. People are in a hurry and I'm hearing a lot of people are concerned about the safety aspect of the amount of traffic and the speeds that people are driving through town, main roads, side roads, all of it. It's really seems to be escalating. So I think that might be worthwhile to spend time on.
I have a heightened sense, partly because both the middle school and the high school are walking distance from my neighborhood. And I tell you, just I don't know if it's just because it's now the fall. It seems like, as you say, either everybody's driving more aggressively or faster, and I see kids on the road, and I'm just, God forbid, waiting for something that's going to be a tragedy. And it is something I do think we should address.
Any other thoughts? I'm hearing definitely some interest in the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit to try and do something for probably next spring. From what I understand, I didn't watch the select board meeting, but I heard they voted that we were not going to have a fall town meeting. So November is not necessarily on the table. Depending on what happens with the ADU stuff, we may need to do something ahead of the spring town meeting, but that would probably be very focused on that. Amanda, yes.
One other bylaw for consideration, we've touched upon in the past how affordable housing is increasingly unaffordable for people, and we're seeing, especially now as rent increases have taken effect, more and more people actually being displaced from affordable housing. So we were talking about the possibility of changing our affordability requirements to include some 60% AMI and not just the 80%, and have a mix, so you would assign a percentage to each distribution. But that would be one like very immediate benefit to new developments coming in.
I would absolutely be interested in that.
And other communities have considered and enacted that, and it's definitely a way to increase affordability.
Yeah, excellent. I would be interested in that. I would be interested in what other board members think. It sounds like that one would be a relatively straightforward change to bring forward too. It's not a complicated change to the existing bylaw.
So because of how we simplified the bylaw in May, where now instead of the affordability requirement being listed 10 times throughout the bylaw, it just refers to the definitions, it would be a definition change.
Excellent. Any other thoughts on anything that we've touched on, or any additional thoughts from board members on what we should be considering for potential bylaw additions, changes, amendments?
I will just say I liked the, I wouldn't have thought of it, but I did like the bylaw for the no more gas leaf blowers. That looked pretty good to me. And I like the idea of the changing that affordability. I'm nervous about it though. I always get really nervous when we look at making changes to affordable things, and let's just maybe have it not be aligned with any expansion of housing. I think we would lose an expansion of housing if we also try to make it more affordable.
Yeah, I think that one needs a lot of talking, a lot of communication to the public, because that's going to be misinterpreted right away.
I completely echo what Josh is saying. I was just about to say the same thing, because it has to be structured appropriately, but we also have to, whatever is put forward has to be an education campaign or education project also.
So that might even be better that we have so much time to the spring, right? So like, I think that's, if we really do want to take this up and we have strong language and, we're all aligned that this makes sense, that we start communicating that as soon as possible so that there can be as much communication around that as possible.
Agreed.
Agree.
Yeah, excellent points, all. The messaging on that, to be clear about what it really means, I think you're right, is going to be critical. And I would like to think that if our residents understand what the goal of that is, and it's clear about what it affects, and that I think people would be supportive of that. I hope.
And just to add to that, Amanda's been working diligently on the housing production plan update, and within that gives a chance for public outreach and education as well.
Amanda, do you want to mention the survey also that we had discussed?
What was that? Sorry.
The survey is in the queue.
Oh. We want to wait till miscellaneous update?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't want to jump. Sorry.
I'm moving along.
Yeah. Were there any other bylaw topics that we wanted to hit on? If not, we can certainly move on to the next agenda item.
Actually, I did just have one question about the accessory dwelling units. If that moves forward, and it becomes by right, I know what the answer is to this already, but I'm just going to ask. It's so dumb, but I'm going to ask. It really would be by right. So every house on every street could put in an accessory dwelling if they're single family residents.
Well, by right still has some parameters.
Yeah. So the easiest way to think of it is how we treat Dover Amendment applications is how these would have to be treated, where they're still subject to setbacks and things like that. But in terms of like discretionary approval, you can't deny it. What the town wants to do is how to do that approval is up to us. So like you could go one route where it's just a building division application and they check it with the zoning bylaw and it goes through. They are saying site plan review is okay, but this is where Elijah was talking about, like they haven't released guidelines, so that's touchy territory because we don't know what is allowed and what's not. But there would still have to be approvals, and it only applies to single family residential zones.
Okay.
So
if somebody's if they're zoned in a MUMFROD, but they're a single resident home,
it would still be subject to size, scale, setbacks, and whether or not there's still the idea of like increasing nonconformities, and so there's still a lot of evolving conversations to go.
Okay.
Yeah. I think as of right does not mean an absolute right. It is a right with potential parameters.
Yeah.
From my understanding too, it really impacts more like existing accessory dwellings, because you can't just go build a lot of these because it would create a nonconformity. So it's a lot of these existing nonconformities that like somebody might want to use as an in-law and change almost the use. And again, Elijah, if I'm getting this wrong, please correct me, but that was my sort of understanding of what the major impact was expected to be.
I mean, I think it'll still open up the ability for new construction, but again, it's an ongoing matter. We have to figure out exactly what the guidance is, if any, once that's issued.
Okay, I'm glad I asked. I really appreciate you guys letting me talk through that with you.
Yeah, no, that was not a dumb question at all, because it's I think when people hear by right, it's not necessarily clear what that means to the general public. Like my understanding too was like, I hear you, Phil. I was like, yeah, it's not a free for all. You still have to abide by setbacks. And if you have a nonconformity, you may still have to go to the ZBA for a special permit. But it removes, like right now, we don't allow more than 2% of the total number of houses, as we can't do that anymore. We can't say, oh, we've hit our cap. There is no cap for number of dwellings. But as far as like, because someone asked me like, well, how many would actually be possible? And I said, that's a good question. Just because if you have a 10,000 square foot lot, depending on your lot, even just because you have the right to do it, how would that, there may be viable in some instances.
Yeah, you're only allowed one by right. Anything beyond one is then reverts to whatever our bylaws are.
Right. So it's not as unrestricted as I think it reads at first press release. But I think that was an excellent question, and I'm glad you asked it, because I had to think about that too. Like, oh, ADUs by right, what does that actually mean? And I'm looking forward to the guidelines when they come out, because that really will guide how we craft a bylaw that's compliant with whatever whatever parameters we have to work within. Excellent. So that was a really, in my opinion, a good high level discussion. I think there's some good ideas about what people and residents, incorporating feedback that we've already kind of heard over the last few years, people are kind of interested in. So we're not anywhere near ready to start formalizing any of that, right? We're just kind of gathering ideas at this point.
Correct.
But January will come up faster than we think when they open the warrant. So I'm glad we are beginning these conversations now. Thank you for putting this on the agenda, and thank you all for sharing your thoughts and contributing some ideas. And I'm looking forward to see what we do. All right. Any further comments on potential warrant articles for now, or are we ready to move on to minutes? Looks like we're ready to move on for 2 minutes. Our next agenda item is, number 9, minutes from the Tuesday, August 6th, 2024 meeting. Did everyone have a chance to review them? Did anyone have any comments or any changes to request?
No changes from me. I thought they were fine.
If there's no discussion, no need for changes, then I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes from August 6, 2024 as written.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take roll call. Phil?
Aye.
Kate?
Abstain.
Oh, right, you were not with us. Josh?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Minutes are accepted as written. Agenda item number 10, updates from agency and committee representatives. Has anyone been to any meetings that they would like to share, report back on? I know it's kind of quiet over the summer, so a lot of meetings aren't actually happening.
I missed the first dog park meeting, unfortunately, but I'll get to the next one.
Okay, yeah, there's only been one so far, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. I am very much looking forward to hearing what comes out of that. So thank you. Yeah, there has not been much with the Canton Street Working Group. We have not, we were hoping to have a large group meeting in August, and that wasn't feasible. So last I heard, we're looking to find a date in September. There was a small group meeting, which I'm not a member of the small group, but they are public meetings, but I was unavailable to attend that one. And I'm not sure if it was recorded. I know it was a Zoom meeting, but I'm hoping to get an update on, that was kind of like the smaller group that was looking at design options. So I'm looking forward to hearing where we are, because right now I'm not really sure. But that's still moving. There's still conversations going on. They're still working on the design, revising it, trying to work with the butters. And as far as I know, we should be having a larger group meeting this month. So hopefully I'll have more to tell you next time. Any other committees, agencies, meetings anyone's been to? All right. Then item number 11 is general miscellaneous updates and administrative items. Turn it over to staff.
So the CRS plan is open for public comment. The public comment period is open through September 15th. So please, anyone who is interested, you can visit, I guess the shortened URL will be www.tinyurl.com/CRS Plan Westwood. You can check out plan there. And please feel free to comment. We are hoping to conclude this and present it to the board at some point in October.
Excellent.
I'm
You
gonna
look like you're about to say something. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
go
I
ahead,
was getting
Amanda.
ahead. Okay. So the housing production plan process has started. Communities can update these every 5 years. So 2025 will be the 5-year mark. The Housing Partnership / Fair Housing Committee is leading that process. A few important dates. Next Monday, so the 16th of September, at 1 o'clock at the Council on Aging, we're having a forum on housing for seniors and persons with disabilities. So that's been advertised out to all seniors in town and also the group homes in town. So we invite anyone to attend. That is in person, but it will be recorded by WMC so people can watch it afterward. Right now, there's a survey open for residents, and then there's also one for developers that I have to push out to people now as well, but it's on the website. We encourage people to fill it out regardless of age, and that'll be open through November 27th. Then on October 17th will be a visioning session that'll be similar to the climate one, where it'll be a bigger event with like hands-on activities. And then last but not least, at the library, we partnered up with them, and there's a display there where you can meet Housie the mascot. I did not name Housie, but that's what he's been deemed. And also there's visioning cards where you can write your vision for housing in Westwood and post it up. There's also, they're pulling books on housing if people want to check out anything. Yeah, so if you want to get more involved, the Housing Partnership beginning October will be meeting monthly to discuss different parts of the plan, and we'll be releasing drafts as each one is ready.
Thank you. Phil, I think you had a comment. I'm sorry, things got a little
No, I had a specific ask for tonight, which is I feel like I play catch up a lot of times, and trying to see how we can, which is one of the things I was talking in with respect to like the select board and Chris Coleman, and I know they have lots on their plate, but I'd like even internally to us to try to see how we can improve communication and efficiency, because I feel sometimes, and it's not just, and it's not saying, that we don't have a lot on our plate. We do, but I didn't even know that until tonight that Tom Houston had passed away. And I'm trying to figure out, and I'm open to suggestions on two things. One, how, and I was going to suggest like a weekly update that even if it's just things that have come in, it gives us a little bit more time. If I get a stormwater, report that's 150 pages long, getting it ahead of time helps. Secondly, I was going to also suggest that we try to improve the efficiency of our meetings. This one, I think, went pretty efficient, but when we had our last one, I think it was the August 6th one, where we had several presentations that couldn't occur because it was already midnight and people just didn't, I wanted to wait until, either we could talk about it or push it to the next meeting, but I wanted to just bring it up to, because it's either, and I know Elijah tries to keep us on track, but I think we need to actually have parameters for our meetings, which is like saying, target for something very simple. This is a, A&R, this should take 15 minutes target time or something like that. Minimize, and I talk too much sometimes myself, so I'm as guilty as everybody else, but let's, I just felt, just kind of, it was not a good look, I think, for us to have like various presentations that had to be pushed off because we're at midnight and we just we didn't have people that are waiting around to deal with us. And so that was one of the things I think internally as a housekeeping matter that we should try to see if we can improve. That was my take.
Agreed. And I like that we put the presentations first this time. I think that was a good thing. Yeah, I sometimes I'm stuck between, I don't want to cut people off, but I also like there's a fine line between like stifling someone who's got something really valuable to say, particularly other board members, if they're sharing their thoughts, but making sure that we're not getting repetitive and
Two go routes.
yeah.
If you can't get what you need to ask, and or hearing it from others who are going to probably ask the same question, because quite honestly, Ellen, I know if it's going to be invasive, I don't need to say anything about it because I know you're going to be touching upon it. If it's something relating to bike racks or pedestrians, I know who's going to be the person who's the point person. I don't need to say it, even though I might have already thought about it. I'm just saying that we should be sensitive to the applicants and not be repetitive, and maybe limit every board member to 2 go rounds, 2 sets of questions, 5 to 10 minutes apiece. If it's a complex issue, it's a big 22 Everett Street, great. But I think we just need to kind of work internally within our own group to kind of create some of our own guidelines that we then try to adhere to, and then deputize Elijah to crack the whip if we talk too much. And then I'm going to say just internally for me, if we could get like a weekly update, you get something that's coming up on 22 Everett Street or on 101 High or whatever, a Monday email that's going to be ahead of time would be greatly appreciated, just partly because or even send the link of what happened at the select board meeting and in the time that I can focus on, because I find the website not intuitive. Perhaps I just don't have the patience to hunt and peck, and it just sometimes is. Then I feel like I'm playing catch up.
No, I think that's if that's something that could be done, I love the idea of like a summary or something like top things we need to know. I think that's a good idea. Thank you. Kate, you've been waiting patiently.
Thank you. So I do just want to say this going through the comprehensive plan, it's the first go around with having people, I think, report back. I could be wrong about that, but this is the first time I recall having people. So even using that as kind of our practice to be like, we would like you to spend 20 minutes and just give us the highlights and set some expectations with our visitors before they join us, even if it's an applicant, right? Letting them know ahead of time, we expect to spend 20 to 25 minutes on this. Even at the start of each section, I think is really useful, and I appreciate Phil's thoughts on that. I wonder maybe next year if we're talking about it, maybe on the nights that we get updates from departments, we don't even do any other business. Maybe we have it 2 meetings, not back to back, but we do no other business and just let people go through their thing. Just an idea. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention, Phil, I love your idea of the update. I also hate the idea of creating more work for staff. So I don't know what the solution is, but I know when I ask John Cummings to tell me what's going on, he'll tell me. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know.
I'm not asking for. I'm actually asking if Elijah, Amanda, people receive stuff, sending it ahead of time. It's a 30-second test. I'm not saying.
Oh, do you mean versus getting it on Friday?
Yes, because I may have a huge amount of things that I have coming up, and I have a report that is 125 pages long that I want to go through because I like to be prepared. And then I'm saying to myself, if I see the date on it, and then I said to myself, if I just had it 5 days, I would have been able to go through it a little bit earlier. And I'm just saying, even if we receive stuff and we know it's coming for the September 24th meeting or something like that, sending it out and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with getting the Friday delivery. It's sometimes it can be, the lead time can really be helpful for us. And then we can be more efficient because I can target much more quickly where I want to go in the traffic report as compared to flailing around and or trying to, get to it more quickly. That's
Gotcha.
that's what I'm saying.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Amanda, yes, you have your hand up.
So one thing I can offer, and this is on me for never, I don't know if I've ever explained the process of to kind of what we're doing behind the scenes in terms of getting that information out. So I can start, how it works now is this, generally speaking, once we go to post it with the paper, which is done weeks in advance, we're adding it to current planning applications on the website, which is linked directly to IQM or meeting portal. So that stuff is actually going on really early, and then being added to as we have additional documents. There's some exceptions to that, like certain applications are just a little more complicated, but I can start sending an email that as soon as it's up on current planning applications, I can send you the link to say, hey, this address has been added, so you can start seeing it. But it is there earlier, but that's my fault. I should have clarified that stuff is always available.
But we'll still get the Friday one, right?
Yeah, no, the Friday ones are good. And I'm not saying that you need to do it every day, even if it is just like, which is partly why I was saying like a Monday morning. I tell clients the squeaky wheel gets my attention because, and I tell them a lot of times, bug me, contact me, and tell me if you say, oh, it's updated. Yes, I can on my own take the initiative and go and find it because I know where to go. But at the same time, if I'm doing 6 other things, I'm not going to think of it until I get the Friday, and then I'm going to be like, whoa, look at all this stuff. I need to look at all this stuff. And it's a lot easier if I can anticipate, especially where there may be, if we have some, some big things in the queue, knowing it ahead of time is just a lot easier. And then it might make our meetings go a little bit more efficiently.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether Josh or Elijah got his hand up first. Josh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, actually, just very actionable language. I'd like to propose something like 2.5 hour meeting duration, and then we can extend for 15-minute increments with an actual vote for us. I think 2.5 hours should be our schedule. We can extend to 3 hours. We should sort of budget and allocate our time up front judiciously. We know roughly how long an A&R is going to take. We need to hold ourselves. Once we have a deadline, we can start holding ourselves to it. So I think 2.5 hours, I agree with Phil. I think 10 o'clock still feels successful if we have a full agenda. But like beyond that, it is counterproductive. And I don't think it's fair to the applicants, the town staff, pretty much us, everybody. So that's my 2 cents.
Then we will hold ourselves to the deadline. In some respects, I'll know we've already gone too long on this and we need to shut up. And I think, I completely agree, Josh.
Kate. Oh no, sorry. I'm sorry, Elijah.
Yeah, no problem. So one, I want to echo what Amanda mentioned. We can definitely, maybe on a weekly basis, just say, hey, check IQM. We have some stuff up. And then as it relates to the timing, I think having suggested times for each item is probably the best way to go. I'm not sure, depending on how long an agenda is, I'm not sure if we can put like a 2.5 hour cap. I would love that. But, depending on the on what's being on the agenda, like, A&Rs always have to be taken action on, and it just depends on kind of what falls into the application line. And then also, I think we've done it maybe once or twice before, but I think maybe even after 2 hours, regardless, we have like a bio break just to actually, it might even help kind of reset and help us refocus. But yeah.
Thank you. Kate, yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to pressure test this with Elijah. I think that our agendas are not just driven by what we want to look at, but we have requirements when a resident puts through something, they expect a response within a certain period of time and they're entitled to that. So I really do not want to talk to you guys at 10:30 ever. I don't want to talk to anybody at 10:30, but to an extent, it's kind of beyond our control. What we have to look at within a certain period of time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, my understanding is you're correct. Where there are legal obligations around some of these filings that if we were to not take action within a certain time, then some things would be de facto approved, other things would just be in violation. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I've asked these questions before over the years.
Yeah,
And
some, but not all, right? Like,
some, but not all. Some
yeah,
things, if
the
we
majority,
for them,
the A&Rs are a perfect example. Those, we can bang those out. Those are,
Absolutely. That's, I would, Josh, I echo, the A&Rs should not take 45 minutes. I mean, it's crazy. We can bang some of the stuff. And yes, part of what we do at night, we cannot control if somebody is talking a long time. But we can control what we do, which is half of the battle, which is how long do we talk? What is our kind of, speaking requirement? And, 2 rounds of questions from Phil, then Phil needs to be quiet.
yeah, I think that is a reasonable approach. We may not have the option to not put something on the agenda, but we can be cognizant of how we proceed. I had a question based on something you just said. Now I just lost it. Something about A&Rs. Couldn't have been that important. Oh no, it was, I appreciate that Elijah has now put together a checklist that he sends to the applicant with an A&R so that we're not taking time going through that and making those comments in our meeting saying, hey, out of the 7 things you're supposed to have on here, you're missing 5. So we're not going to endorse this. So that I think has really helped move those along in a very positive way. So I appreciate that you've really, you do all that work before it even comes into our meeting. So thank you for that. And I'm always excited to talk about ways to make our meetings more efficient. I think we want to make sure we're doing our due diligence. But I think there are definitely ways we can cut down the time that it takes. Some nights we do have really large agendas and the chips just fall that way. We don't really, sometimes we don't have a choice about what ends up on the agenda on which days. But I like all of these suggestions and I'm glad we're having this conversation. Thanks for opening.
In the interest of time, it is 10:19. Just wanted to let the board know.
I think it's Kate's time.
Motion to close.
Yeah, there was, sorry, I have one more. I just have to note the upcoming board meetings. We have meetings on September 24th, 2024, October 15th, 2024, and October 29th, 2024.
Motion to close.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on adjournment? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Phil?
Aye.
Josh?
aye.
Kate?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.
Great
Have
job.
a great night.
Great
Good
night.
night.